across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good evening, this is the Evening Exchange. I'm Peter Cardwell, here right through until 10 o'clock this evening. So much to discuss this Wednesday evening, including the plan from the government to get everyone in for Christmas, to get homeless people, specifically rough sleepers, off our streets. Will it work? Is it a plan that Andy Burnham can actually have meaningful traction on? We'll speak to the former head of one of the biggest homelessness charities in the country, who is now in the House of Lords, someone I've known for a number of years who really knows this stuff inside out. We'll drill into it properly and see whether we can get those people, including veterans, off the streets and into proper accommodation. That's what we should do as a civilised society. I know a bit about this as well from my time in government. We'll talk as well about the small boats, of course. Labour MP was speaking to Jeremy a little bit earlier on. We'll reflect on that. And the trans green anti-Zionist who says that she, more accurately he, doesn't like Israel, now elected to a women's role within that party despite not being a woman. Lots to discuss on the programme. I'd love to hear from you. 0344 499 1000. We'll talk about the understanding behaviours and expectations in the UK Guide for Asylum Seekers as well from the Home Office. Consequences of behaviour is what it says on its, or what it reads on the front of it. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me at 7222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV, follow me at Peter Cardwell. You can send me a WhatsApp voice note, you can send me a WhatsApp text message, or you can give me a ring. 0344 499 1000 is the number. So much to discuss between now and 10. Stay with us here on the Evening Exchange on Talk. Let's just go through the day a little bit and see what the major stories are. The first one on many of the front pages today, Andy Burnham talking about street homelessness, rough sleeping. This is something I know a little bit about because I was an advisor to the then Secretary of State for Housing. That was one of my roles as a special advisor in government, and homelessness was something that I advised on. And certainly there are different types of homelessness, as you may or may not know, of course. People can be homeless but still have a roof over their head, whether they're in a bed and breakfast, whether they're in temporary accommodation. But it's people who sleep on the street, record numbers actually in the last period for which figures are available. And there are people literally sleeping out under the stars or in a car or in a car park or something like that. Absolutely dreadful. And, you know, it's different from beggars on the street. Some of them have a roof over their head, some of them don't. Very, very big plan a few years ago during the COVID pandemic called Everyone In, and that was very successful, largely due to the efforts of some brilliant people running it. Louise Casey, remember her, Baroness Casey, and also a fantastic civil servant I worked with, probably the best civil servant I worked with actually, sadly no longer with us, a guy called Jeremy Swain. Many questions about how this will work, if there's enough money, whether it will persuade people to come in. Some people don't want to have a roof over their head for lots of complex reasons. We'll get into all of that, but I just want to first of all find out what the Prime Minister has been saying about this. Here's Andy Burnham.
This is the right thing to do. I feel very passionately about this. I spoke in Downing Street when I came into office about putting a care for people at the heart of everything that we do, and that can't be done and if you've got people who've just got nowhere to go and are left sleeping in the streets. In this country, I don't think in this day and age anybody should be forced to sleep rough. And actually, when you do leave people sleeping rough, it can often cost more to the state because people can be in and out of A&E and in and out of hospital beds and sometimes in contact with the police. It's just the right thing to do. And as Prime Minister, I want to waste no time in making those moves to say, no, this is who we are, this is how we should be. Nobody should sleep rough on the streets of Britain.
There are lots of developments and debates about small boats as well today, or very large boats. Of course, we saw 230 people coming across on one of them. Sam Rushworth is a Labour MP and spoke to Jeremy earlier today. We'll debate this throughout the evening.
I think what we do need to look at is what are the pull factors. And I think there's two big pull factors. One is that they speak the English language, you know, because we spent a couple of centuries going around the world colonising it and teaching everyone our language.
There's the reason that the Labour Party will forever allow people to come to this country.
They've got a network of people that speak our language. And the other is that there is a black economy, and we need to deal with the black economy.
Sam Rushworth, the Labour MP, will talk about that. We'll also talk about someone calling themselves Eleanor Folan, who has become a female rep on the Green Party's governing council for the East of England. Well, it's actually a trans woman, and the Green and anti-Zionist nature of what he has said is all over the internet. There's so many people quite annoyed about this. Let's see a quick clip of this.
Hello! Hello. Can everybody hear me all right? Wonderful. I think we need to get some energy going first. So I say trans, you say rights, yeah? Trans! Rights! Trans! Rights! Trans! Rights! My name is Eleonora. I am a trans woman, and I am a woman no matter what any other people might think or say.
Yeah, plenty more of that later on. But I want to talk about the big story today, and that is Andy Burnham unveiling plans to get rough sleepers off the streets for Christmas. I wish him well in this. I really hope that he is successful in all of this, but I do want to slightly drill down into the practicality of it. James Cleverly, who's the Shadow Housing Secretary, has said that he's previously, Andy Burnham, has failed because he didn't do the hard work necessary. The Liberal Democrats, Gideon Amos, their housing spokesman, said sticking plasters won't fix the homelessness crisis. Let's speak to a proper expert on this. That is Baroness Neat, Polly Neat, who is someone who has run shelter, has run Women's Aid, who knows how to help vulnerable people in our society. Polly, it's a pleasure to speak to you again. And
Hi,
I wonder what you think of this. Will it work?
Well, I just want to say, first of all, I'm absolutely with you in wishing the Prime Minister well in achieving this. The more unfolds about the detail of this, the better it sounds. But I think the problem, the essential problem is that homelessness is a symptom of a large number of quite complex problems, many of which can only be solved by quite significant investments elsewhere. And, you know, in preventing the problems that cause homelessness in the first place. And the other issue, I guess, is that what we are really in the middle of in this country is an affordability crisis in all aspects of our housing system. And the only way ultimately to prevent homelessness is which the government says they are doing, but not quite enough yet, is a significant investment in building social housing. So I think there are some good ideas here. I mean, the other thing is, how much is going to be, you know, the Prime Minister's saying it's going to be left very much up to local areas to make this happen. And in one way, that's great because homelessness isn't exactly the same everywhere, neither in terms of its severity nor in terms of the causes of it. But there need to be some principles set from the centre, I would say, to make sure that local areas are carrying out this in a way that is really going to have some success. I could go on, but I expect you want to ask me another.
I do, I'm afraid. It's interesting just looking at the statistics. Autumn last year, the number of people estimated to be sleeping rough on a single night in England is 4,793. I think, I don't want to patronise the viewers and listeners, some of them will know this very well, but you know it really, really properly well. And I just wonder if you could just briefly explain the difference between rough sleepers sleeping on the street and people in temporary accommodation and other forms of homelessness, because that's a huge thing, isn't it? And I worry a little bit. I don't want to be cynical about this. I don't want to be down in this plan, but I do wonder if people will think, right, if fewer people are sleeping in the streets, then homelessness is tackled, and it really isn't. It's one very visible and very important and horrible part of homelessness, but there's so much more. And I remember you saying to me in my office years ago, Polly, one thing that stayed with me and stays with me to this day, which was about people who live in bed and breakfasts, and they don't have proper accommodation. They don't live in nice bed and breakfasts. They live in bed and breakfasts that are you know, basically a roof over your head and that's it. They don't have things that they can properly cook properly. And I remember you telling me one thing that stayed with me the whole way through. You said, the babies don't learn to crawl because there isn't enough room. That to me is a much bigger problem. It's also a problem, but it's just kind of the tip of the iceberg when it comes to people sleeping on the street, horrible though it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad you asked me about this, Peter. And I also remember that conversation years ago, yes, that we had. And of course, you're absolutely right. So homelessness is like an iceberg, if you like, and rough sleeping is the tip of the iceberg. And of course, as you've just been saying, affects a much smaller number of people than are actually experiencing homelessness. And many of those are families, as you just rightly said, in temporary accommodation. And I guess what I would also say about that is that really the everyone in before Christmas, which everybody is kind of citing, well, we did it in COVID, we can do it again. Well, actually, what happened in COVID was a massive increase in temporary accommodation. And we are spending an absolute fortune already in this country on temporary accommodation. And that's because we're not tackling the actual root causes of homelessness.
I actually remember a lot about Everyone In because there was a civil servant called Jeremy Swain. I know you knew him, former head of Thames Reach, brilliant, brilliant man, who did an awful lot of work on that scheme. And he said, COVID's dreadful, lockdown's dreadful, but at the same time there was almost a perfect storm because people who were begging on the streets, for example, couldn't beg off people because they weren't on the streets. The drug dealers and various other people who'd be pushing various things to keep people on the streets disappeared because of lockdowns. And actually, not to take anything away from that excellent scheme, there were nonetheless various factors which made it a success. I just wonder, in a post-COVID kind of scenario, whether you think everyone can get in for Christmas. And actually, there are some people who will resist help as well. There are people who don't like officialdom, they don't like shelters, they don't like a temporary accommodation for lots of reasons, and that's a problem too. And as you say, that factors into all these much wider problems when it comes to society.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people who are experiencing homelessness are traumatized both by the experience of homelessness itself and also by previous experiences that they've had. And so the work of supporting people to be off the streets long term is complicated and highly specialized and needs to be trauma informed. And that's a very specialized job, and it takes time as well. It can't necessarily be done by Christmas. This is quite complicated work. People are really damaged. And I guess that goes back to what I was originally saying, which is that we really need to look at the causes of homelessness, how we treat our young people leaving care, for example, how we treat people when they lose their jobs, the fact that people can't afford to live in a decent home, and people are one paycheck away from homelessness. All of these things are causes of homelessness, which the government needs a comprehensive plan to tackle if it's going to do more than get people off the streets by Christmas.
I know you're in the House of Lords, you're not in a political party. I'm not asking you to get political here. I'm just wondering what your view is of Andy Burnham's record on this issue in Manchester. Did he do a good job?
Yes, I mean, I think he did a good job, but it's a very complex issue.
Yeah.
And, everybody knows, it's been all over the papers today. I don't know why my picture keeps moving, because I'm not moving.
Oh, right, okay. We can see you.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I think he did a good job. I think what happened is it's an extremely complex problem, and people have needs that just tackling getting people off the streets initially is not going to actually deal with the complex needs that people sometimes have, and secondly, the fact that there simply are not the properties to put people in the long term so that people can be really settled. The government are talking about an increase to Housing First, for example, which is where you give somebody a long-term home and put the support in place to help them to stay there. But that relies upon the provision of social housing that those people can actually move into. We don't have enough social housing for the 1.3 million people who are already on waiting lists. So, you know, I really wish the Prime Minister well, and I do actually think that what he's talking about has a chance of having a significant impact on this problem. But what it won't do is prevent homelessness for the future.
Okay. Another organisation you ran was Women's Aid. You know a lot about women's rights and you speak up about those in the House of Lords in your new role there. I just wonder what you make of this guide that the Home Office has put out, given to asylum seekers in regard to how to treat women. I expect you haven't had time to read the whole thing, but the fact that it is giving asylum seekers a framework, basically, and saying, essentially, don't rape women. I mean, I just wonder what your reaction to that is.
I don't think we're importing violence against women because of asylum seekers coming into the country.
There have been quite a few attacks by asylum seekers.
Well, there's quite a lot of concern among the public about that, and I wonder whether the Home Office's guidance is in response to that. And if it is, you know, there isn't sufficient data to really know whether or not asylum seekers are increasing crime against women and girls or not. We certainly have a major issue of violence against women and girls in this country. And, you know, I don't think that we are importing it by asylum seekers coming into the country. I don't know what has prompted the government to issue this guide, because actually the crime statistics that the government itself has are not sufficiently sophisticated to know what proportion of those specific crimes are being committed by asylum seekers.
Okay. Polly, thank you. That's Polly Neate, Baroness Neate, life peer, former Chief Executive of Shelter and indeed of Women's Aid. What do you think of what she said there? 0344 499 1000. Penny in Essex says, good evening, Peter. Burnham will never get all rough sleepers off the street by Christmas. It's a total disgrace that migrants are warm and dry in nice hotels who have never contributed to anything in our country, freebie after freebie. Where's the money coming from? It must be there. The migrants have it. Great if he could. But why doesn't this idiot sort migration out first? Hostels for rough sleepers, although some are on drugs, alcoholics, and have to leave because they're too disruptive, but 4-star hotels for migrants. It can't be done, says Penny. The handbook as well, lots of people getting in touch with that, including Sarah. This handbook is being presented like something you'd find in a welcome pack when you arrive at an Airbnb. Here's how to use the cooker. Please leave the place tidy. Oh, and don't forget, don't rape our women or children. Do illegal immigrants have interrogation as soon as they arrive as to whether they understand basic UK law, especially given their gender, age and unknown background? Are they not thoroughly risk assessed on arrival and sent to detention camps for de-radicalisation? Given the beliefs of certain cultures towards women and children, are they not immediately assessed before being released into the community? I feel physically sick. This is an all-time low, this pamphlet. It is absolutely shameful. I wonder what you make of what Polly Neate said there, because she doesn't seem to acknowledge, or well, certainly says that it doesn't seem to be any worse and the data isn't sophisticated enough. Martin in Lichfield says, Andy Burnham hasn't explained where these homeless people will stay, how many will use it, who will work there, then how much tax will have to be raised to pay for it. Well, in fairness, Andy Burnham, he has pledged another £100 million, and that's on top of about 340 million that he spoke about previously. Then how much tax will have to be raised to pay for it? Devolving powers removes accountability, so when it goes wrong, it'll be someone else's fault, not Andy's. It's the feel-good factor full of empty promises with no substance. Thank you, says Martin in Lichfield. Thank you. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text, or send me a WhatsApp voice note. We'll try and play some of those out between now and 10 o'clock. Just send them through, less than a minute, same as you send a WhatsApp voice note to anybody else. Lots to discuss, and we will be on the debate desk in a second with Candice Holsworth and Sebastian Salek. Stay with us here on Talk.
You doom mongers, you're just killjoys, aren't you?
That's just silly, isn't it? I'm not a doom monger. I'm a fact monger.
Yeah? Well, why can't people just enjoy the summer?
And 1,000 people are dead. And 20 people have lost their homes.
No, well, that's bad.
And
I agree with that.
And our army has stretched beyond breaking point.
But your facts, you can't say 1,000 people have died because of climate change. That's right.
Well,
you laugh
in
a condescending way. You're making yourself look ridiculous. Don't blame me.
This is not a discussion. This is just a rant.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Ali's been in touch and says Pauline Neat is delusional if she says there's no evidence of migrants raping women and children or murders. She didn't say that. She said there's no evidence that they're any more likely to. She said there is a massive problem with violence against women and girls in this country. And yeah, feel free to disagree with her. Send me in your messages. I will read them out. Dawn says, when I used to deal with homelessness, my council never used bed and breakfast accommodation. We managed it brilliantly with our own housing stock. Street sleeping is mainly caused by addiction. I think you're right, Dawn. The problem is that a lot of that housing stock just isn't there anymore. I do want to talk about rough sleeping again in a minute, but I also want to talk about this particular clown, who is the Eleanora Sophie Folan, who is the Green Party rep for East Anglia as their female rep, which is astonishing given that it's a man. But we'll come to that in a minute. In the meantime, I want to welcome to the debate desk political commentator Candice Holsworth. How are you?
Good.
Lovely to see you. And former Labour councillor Sebastian Salek.
Hello.
I understand this is the last time before you get married, Sebastian.
That's it. Next time you see me, I will be a husband.
You'll be a husband?
Yeah.
Crazy.
A changed man.
Excellent. Well, there we are. There we are. Well, very many congratulations to you and Mrs. Sebastian. Lots to discuss on the debate desk. Actually, let's start with rough sleeping. Let's hear what Andy Burnham has been saying about it today, the Prime Minister.
This is the right thing to do. I feel very passionately about this. I spoke in Downing Street when I came into office about putting a care for people at the heart of everything that we do, and that can't be done and if you've got people who've just got nowhere to go and are left sleeping in the streets. In this country, I don't think in this day and age anybody should be forced to sleep rough. And actually, when you do leave people sleeping rough, it can often cost more to the state because people can be in and out of A&E and in and out of hospital beds and sometimes in contact with the police. It's just the right thing to do. And as Prime Minister, I want to waste no time in making those moves to say, no, this is who we are, this is how we should be. Nobody should sleep rough on the streets of Britain.
We will come to rough sleeping in just a second, but some fan mail has arrived already for Sebastian. He literally has not expressed an opinion apart from, I'm looking forward to my wedding. I mean, that is literally the only opinion that he's expressed. John says, while I'm not against the woke left voicing their deranged views, I do object to you paying them to spread their destructive agenda. I hope Sebastian is not being paid to infect listeners with his dangerous propaganda. Well, I don't think it's a good idea to get into our sort of payments policy whilst on air necessarily. It's more a behind the scenes kind of thing. But just to let you know, John is listening and monitoring your output, certainly when it comes to this.
John, fear not. Any money that I may or may not receive for my appearances go directly to woke causes.
Oh, you are definitely stirring things up. On a more serious note, what do you make of the this plan to get people in by Christmas? Will it work?
It's positive, isn't it? I mean, look, we've done it once already with COVID. I know it was slightly different. We had hotels that were empty, and so it's a slightly different situation now. But it's the kind of boldness you want to see from a Prime Minister, isn't it? It's the kind of boldness you often, actually, admittedly, get from the right, who say, why can't we do this thing? And often you can't really do the thing. But nice to see some grit from the Prime Minister. It's incredibly important. It also shows a great deal of foresight, because it's very hot now. We've had heat wave after heat wave. But before we know it, as ever, in this country, it's going to get pretty damn cold, and that's when homelessness becomes a real issue.
Although, interestingly, Sir James Cleverly, the Conservative Shadow Housing Secretary, said that what happened in Greater Manchester failed because Burnham didn't do the hard work necessary. He says, if you look at the statistics, there was an increase in the number of rough sleepers. Also, the Liberal Democrats, their housing spokesman Gideon Amos, said sticking plasters won't fix the homelessness crisis, adding a proper long-term plan is needed to prevent people finding themselves back in the streets once the festive headlines fade.
Yeah, and look, the beauty of being Prime Minister is that you have a lot more power than the Mayor of Greater Manchester does. And you can criticise this for being not a complete solution to homelessness. I don't think anybody's claiming it is. And it's frankly disappointing, because it's an issue we can all get behind. We all want to solve homelessness.
We do. Will it work, do you think, Candice?
I think it's a laudable goal. I think what he will struggle with, though, is, and you mentioned it, is one of the big driving forces behind homelessness is addiction. So, like in Manchester, where numbers fell initially, but then they go up again because people fall back into their addictions and they end up on the streets.
And I worry. I don't mean to be cynical about this. I know, in fact, when I was a special advisor on homelessness in the Ministry of Housing, Polly Neate there mentioned Housing First, which is essentially get someone off the streets, then try to sort out with the problems, but it starts with housing. And that's something we as Conservatives, which I then was, I'm not anymore, worked with Andy Burnham as a Labour Mayor to try to do. His was one of the pilot areas. It is a really, really tricky problem, but there's a tiny bit of my cynical brain which says, is this the Prime Minister saying, throw a load of money at the problem, it'll all be fine by Christmas, let's have a nice Christmas where people say, great Andy Burnham, here I am at a homelessness shelter showing how people are off the streets and nice and warm for Christmas, and then suddenly in January, February, when it gets a bit warmer again, it falls out of the news agenda. People don't care anymore.
Yeah, that's so true. Look, this problem is an intractable problem, sometimes for reasons people don't want to talk about as well. I mean, one of my good friends works with Westminster Council, and she said they would offer people repeatedly, she would say, we can give you accommodation, but they refuse it. They're actually very, very resistant to it. I don't always think it's the system's problem. Sometimes it is down to those individuals themselves. But as I've gotten older, I've started to become a lot more conservative about drugs in our society, for instance, because I think they ruin people's lives.
Of course they do.
I think people become horribly addicted and end up in psychosis and on the streets, and we're too soft about it.
Of course we are, and nobody properly understands how cannabis, for example, is so dangerous. We do not talk about that enough. It can give people psychotic episodes. There are all sorts of spice as well is a really cheap, horrible drug. We talked about that a little bit the other night. Becca says, are you going to mention the rise on meal rape by the boat people, or does this not matter? It absolutely matters, Becca, and I'm very, I'm sad to mention it, but I'm happy to mention it if you know what I mean. Mark in Norfolk says, Richard Tice was right, hot weather is good for the homeless. Lots of people talking about Polly Neate as well. Clayton in Dartford says, if she thinks migrants are not a problem when it comes to sex crimes, then why did Lammy have the stats withheld? Puzzling. It is not. I don't think she said they weren't a problem. I think she said they weren't proportionately more of a problem, so we just need to be careful how we characterise her remarks and get it right. Amanda says, ever since Andy Burnham took office, it's all been about Mr Nice Guy, perhaps because he thinks people will accept the future unpopular decisions more easily. And Gary in Larne has been in touch and says, I've been meaning to ask this for ages, did Alan Partridge write the talk jingles? Well, Gary, no, I don't think he did, but interestingly, there is one talk presenter who shall remain nameless, it's not me, who some of the week lives in a nearby hotel. And I was chatting to someone in this hotel the other day, just having a coffee with a friend in the bar of this hotel, and said presenter came up and started chatting to us, and it was all very nice, and I said, are you staying in the hotel again? Yeah. Got your big plate? No. You know, are you going to head off and dissemble a Corby trouser press? All the jokes from Alan Partridge, and I'm not sure that presenter particularly liked it, but it would be wrong of me to reveal which presenter that was, and I will not do that to Jeremy. Stay with us.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Lots more messages coming in. Angie says, so rehousing the homeless, does that include the tent cities that are popping up with illegals? So let's kick them out of hotels just to put them back in again. That awful woman you spoke to earlier from Shelter is a clown. Does she live in an area where these people have raped our women and girls? Because I do. I don't think she's a clown, Angie. I disagree with you on that. I think she knows of what she speaks, but her view is clearly different from yours. Another person says, are the government seriously suggesting a child rapist migrant is going to read its pile of guff and think twice? I'm thinking this is either total gullible incompetence or gaslighting on a clandestine level for all of the above. We'll come to this in a second. This is a Home Office guide, Understanding Behaviours and Expectations of the UK, that has been given to asylum seekers. We'll talk about that in a second. Amazing things have happened. Some breaking news this evening, and that is that Sebastian has received a positive message. So there we are. It's from Ben in Derbyshire. Says, I love it when Sebastian's on. He gives us an insight into how other people think. I disagree with most of the things he says, but we disagree without being disagreeable. Excellent. You've got the message, says Ben. Also loving his new TikTok content. Is totally unrelated to politics. More power to him. Tell us about your TikTok content. What's going on there?
So the thing about Britain is I feel like we're all a bit negative about living here, and part of the reason is that there's so much richness around us that we don't understand. So I'm doing the surprising origins of everyday British behaviours. So it's things like why we love a roast, or where the stiff upper lip came from. And
why do we love a roast?
Why do we love a roast? It comes from back in the day when we had beef and liberty. It was a symbol of power and freedom against the French, who we thought were all tyrannical and eating weak soups. And so it was a symbol of our power, and then it went from there.
I think some of those elements. Are you a big fan of a Sunday roast?
Yes, I am actually. But this is crazy. None of my children like roast potatoes.
I don't like roast potatoes.
Oh my God,
I don't like
seriously?
roast potatoes. No, I'm not a fan.
Can I say something even more unattractive? I don't like Yorkshire puddings.
Get out.
Yeah,
get out. Off you go.
Delete
Sorry,
the
take your
TikTok.
microphone off. Off you go. Off you go. Right.
Silence.
How's that
Sorry.
unpalatable view?
You're not on next week. Okay, we're cancelling your appearance next week, Sebastian. The fact that he's getting married, I think, would probably be arguably more of. I mean, is that more of a priority than coming on the debate desk?
Narrowly.
It's narrowly. Okay, let's talk about the power shift putting growth in the hands of Number 10 North. This is as UK borrowing costs near a 2-decade high. Andy Burnham says that Number 10 North is going to take on growth. Is this going to make a blind button of difference, Candice?
No, well, not for me. I mean, I understand why he's done it, because I think giving the Treasury that dual responsibility does cloud the mission, like he says. I totally agree. The Treasury...
So the Treasury manages the finances and also talks about growth?
Yes, exactly. They are bean counters. Sorry to be negative, but they are. So they're going to always be a bit risk-averse, right? They're never going to do things that you need them to do, because they're always thinking about balancing the books. But what I would say is I don't think growth is driven by the state. And I think that's quite a Labour view. For me, I will always say growth is driven by business, by entrepreneurs, and you can create the competition, you create the right conditions for that to grow. So that's what I think. I think trying to always have it be state-directed and state-driven is just wrong. It's the wrong...
She's right, isn't she? Because the state is not going to... Well, I mean, every Prime Minister says they want to encourage growth, and that's just not what's happening.
Well, it's a bit of both, isn't it? You can create the conditions that allow business to thrive.
But are more civil servants in Manchester going to make any difference to this?
Well, you can also invest. You can borrow to invest, and then you can create growth like that. And I think the important thing about this
is we can't have more borrowing, though, can we? Because it's incredibly expensive. It's more expensive now than it has been
and that's why
in many years.
I decry the time when borrowing was so incredibly cheap during the Cameron and the Osborne years. And we were told, oh, you have to have austerity then. And I just wish we'd done more then, because we'd be in a better position
now. Maybe
they
failed to fix the roof when the sun was shining, someone might say.
Well. Yeah, but the other thing about this is that I think it's important to have people living and working in Manchester, and living and working outside of London. You've got the new Treasury office opening in Darlington as well.
The Treasury office in Darlington, why not move the growth bit to there and say, right, you'll do the growth bit, and then the London can do the bean counting bit?
Well, I think you can afford to decentralise more and more. It's good that you've got some in Darlington, some in Manchester, then who knows where else.
Can we afford it? Because it's more expensive, and, you know, if you have civil servants going to lots of other different things. I mean, are you convinced by Number 10 North, Candice?
Oh, I just think it's a big distraction. I don't really see... I don't see the necessity in it. I think that he's trying to... I understand what he's trying to do politically. I mean, I think that they're trying to build a whole brand around appealing to the North, and that is one of the ways that they can successfully challenge reform. And I know a lot of of people in the north are positive about it, but I just don't. I honestly think that it is going to become just this massive distraction, like almost like a boondoggle.
Outside Manchester, are people actually in favour of it? And also, what if the next Prime Minister's from Glasgow? Do we have number 10 Scotland? Do we have number 10 West if they're from, you know, Plymouth? You know, how does it work?
Yes, you're so right. You're totally right. Look, I think a lot of this is just about really trying to beat reform in the north, because there are so many of these northern constituencies where reform is snapping at the heels of Labour, and I really do think that this is a way of trying to appeal to them.
I'm just interested as well in talking about Andy Burnham. He accepted £345,000 of donations for his campaign, essentially. We also know that he took tickets for Aintree, for Glastonbury as well. I remember being on air when loads of people were incredibly annoyed about everybody going to Taylor Swift. I don't think Andy Burnham went to Taylor Swift, but is this... are you worried about this, or is this just a matter of, you know, haters going to hate?
I'm just so deeply unmoved by any story like this, whoever the character might be at the centre of it. Will we ever talk like this about a US president? Will we ever talk about this like this about a French president? They go to things because they are the leader of the country. That includes Glastonbury.
They don't have to. They don't have to.
But they should. You know, Angela Merkel goes to Bayreuth every day, the large Wagner festival, not every day, every year in Germany, and that's great. And she's seen there, and she's seen there supporting the arts. Our Prime Minister should be doing the same thing. It's literally his job to be present at these things. Whether he enjoys it or not is another matter.
Yeah, the world of lobbying. I know a lot of people who work in lobbying, and they are kind of forced to do this. We have to wine and dine to get the attention of politicians, so whoever you're representing, they can put their case forward. I understand why it seems unseemly to a lot of people, because it seems very transactional, and it's as if politicians are being a bit greedy. But I'm not necessarily opposed to the world of lobbying, because I think that you have to find a way of putting your case forward to politicians. And if it means you have to kind of schmooze them at Wimbledon or something, maybe that's just what you have to do.
Yeah, full disclosure, I've done a bit of it myself. Yeah. Sebastian, very, very interesting stuff from you both, from Candace as well. We'll come back and talk about this plan from the Home Office about understanding behaviours and expectations in the UK. Also, we will see someone calling themselves Eleonora Sophie Folan, who has been elected the female representative of the Green Party's governing council, despite being a man. And we'll get some more of your... Actually, let me just read out a couple more of your messages as well. Dave says, if the government is including a document about not raping our women, they obviously feel it is a problem with migrants, otherwise they wouldn't state the obvious. And Gary says, at the top of your show, you laughingly asked if Andy Burnham's plan to get the homeless off the streets by Christmas would work, but he hasn't announced a plan, has he? I don't think he was laughing about it. At the moment, all he has is a headline-grabbing ambition, a promise to throw a whole load of money that we don't have. I mean, that is a plan, Gary. Maybe it's a whole load of money we don't have, and that's fine. And a vague commitment to work with partners, whoever they may be, to find a solution. And anybody thinks that because the government got the homeless off the streets during the pandemic, that it's possible to do it now, is forgetting that local authorities put those homeless people in hotels, bed and breakfast accommodation, student halls of residence during the pandemic, because they were not being used back then, but of course they're being used now. Well, you do have some very good points in there, Gary. I don't agree with all of it, but I certainly wasn't laughing about homelessness. But listen, thank you for your comments. We'll be back in the debate desk, and hopefully if I make any further Taylor Swift puns, they won't go over Sebastian's head. Stay with us.
You doom-mongers, you're just killjoys, aren't you?
That's just silly, isn't it? I'm not a doom-monger. I'm a fact-monger.
Yeah? Well, why can't people just enjoy the summer?
And 1,000 people are dead. And 20 people have lost their homes.
No, well, that's bad.
And
I agree with that.
the army has stretched me on breaking
But your facts are... You can't say 1,000 people have died because of climate change. That's right.
Well,
you laugh in a
government
condescending way. You're making yourself look ridiculous. Don't blame me.
This is not a discussion. This is just a rant.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's talk about someone called Eleanor Sophie Folan, or calling themselves Eleanor Sophie Folan. This is a man who has been elected as the female representative for the East of England for the Green Party. I'm very happy, he says, to say Green members in East Anglia have elected me to be their female rep on the party's governing council. I'm so grateful to them and to Greens for Palestine for their support. I intend to stand by my manifesto, defend freedom of speech regarding Israel, support members when they're attacked and smeared by the feral Zionist press, and ensure all our members follow the same rules. In short, free speech, solidarity, equality. I know there will be Zionists reading this who are utterly furious that I won. I welcome their hatred, says Eleanor. Our party has changed, and my election as a proud anti-Zionist trans woman symbolises that change. I look forward to working with comrades on the the GPC, the Governing Council, to build a radical anti-imperialist Green Party, one that always stands shoulder to shoulder with queers, Palestinians, disabled people, migrants, refugees and activists enduring state repression. Inshallah, we will prevail. Let's see a little bit about what Eleanor has been saying.
Hello! Can everybody hear me all right? Wonderful. I think we need to get some energy going first. So I say trans, you say rights, yeah? Trans! Rights! Trans! Rights! Trans! Rights! My name is Eleanor. I am a trans woman, and I am a woman no matter what any other people might think or say, because the Supreme Court does not determine reality. It does not snap its fingers and change everything at once. I hate long plodding speeches, so I just had a few things that I think were important to say. The first is that framing it as us versus the Girl Guides, as an organisation, or the WI, is exactly what TERFs want. It is precisely what they are trying to achieve, to pit all of us as enemies of little girls, as enemies of lovely old women. And I think the most important thing to do is to recognise that these organisations are not our enemies. They are not our opponents. They are people, cowardly people, soft people, yes, who have capitulated to legal threats, to threats of bankruptcy. But they are not the cause of our problems.
Eleanor also said the anti-Semitism crisis is an entirely constructed moral panic invented by the Zionist lobby and their servile allies in Downing Street and the rabid dogs of the press. Its sole objective is to crush any materially significant movement that challenges Israel. Israel in inverted commas, by the way, not accepting that Israel is a real country. It's a scam. Anyway, victory to the Iranian nation, free Palestine from imperial colonisers, and abolish Israel. Later, she's in a different post, he said, our party has changed and my election as a proud anti-Zionist trans woman symbolises that change. Another statement was that when polls started to show the Greens were set to gain up to 1,000 seats from Labour in the local elections, the media immediately roared into action and invented a fake scandal to try to destroy the only viable left-wing party in England. There is no crisis. Candice, Sounds like a lovely person.
OK, there's no crisis. So why do schools, why do synagogues, why do...
It's almost not worth arguing with. I mean it's just so wrong in every possible way.
They have to have security, round-the-clock security.
Anti-Semitic attacks have gone up by a fifth in the last year.
And if we didn't have that security, we could have what happened in France, for instance, where schools were attacked and children were killed. I mean, this is a disgrace. I mean, like you say, it's almost like not worth arguing. But this is also why the Green Party, I think their support has cratered since last year when it was revealed how poor some of their candidates are, just how shocking some of them are. They can freely express their views, but I'm free to say just how vile I think it is.
I'm not sure Eleanor is a real person. I think he was created in a lab just to annoy me. What do you think, Sebastian?
Seems to be working. Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. I think this is... What an awful viewpoint to have, and I'm sad that it's acceptable within a political party that is considered credible in Britain today. And the reality is a lot of these people, I'm not sure what the case was for Eleanor, but a lot of these people were in Labour just a few years ago and were miring it with all of this horrible, horrible stuff and have taken it to the Greens. And it's now the Greens' problem to handle. It doesn't mean it's gone from Labour. It never will be. We'll always have problems, I think all parties will, with horrible views like this, and we have to be able to boot them out. But, you know, what's happened here, it's somebody who stood in an election, an internal election, has put themselves forward, and they've won. And, you know, what does that say about the Green Party, that these views are considered popular?
I think it says quite a lot, certainly. Yeah, I mean, I think the less said about Eleanor, the better, but no doubt we'll return to the story. And if you want to have a chat about Eleanor and his views, let me know, 344 499 1000. Let's talk a little bit about this document. This is the Home Office Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK, a guide for asylum seekers. Lots in it as well, and they've been handed booklets warning them that sex with children is illegal and that men and women are equal under UK law. Laws and customs here may be different from your home country. There's stuff about the legal age of consent. Both people must say yes to sex. This is called consent. It's illegal to harass people. Someone under the age of consent is not correct. What's expected of you, always make the other person feel freely and clearly agrees to sex or sexual contact. Never use threat, force or pressure to make someone have sex. Never try to have sex with someone who's asleep, drunk or unable to consent clearly. Stop if they say no and change your mind. Respect in public. You shouldn't make sexual comments to someone, even if you think it is a compliment. Whistle or make kissing noises at someone, following someone or block their path. Make rude or offensive gesture, verbally abuse someone because of their gender, religion or how they look. Candice, what do you make of this particular guide?
I mean, this has been going on for years. I mean, I remember 10 years ago in 2015, the New York Times did a big article during the big migrant waves that were happening. They were having to educate men from countries where women are not free, are oppressed, that you can't just treat women however you want in our societies. And one of the men was quoted as saying, "This was new to me. In my country, if you want a woman, you can just take her." I mean, for us, for women in Western societies, I mean, that is just anathema. I mean, we are the freest in the world. And I think this is insulting to women, like just trying to manage the behaviour. No, it shouldn't be. They should not be allowed in if they have these views.
What would you say if they are going to come in, and I don't think they should, but if they are coming in, is it perhaps not a bad idea to say these are the rules?
Yes, but I think that before someone comes into the country, you've got to find out what their views on women are. Come on. I mean, for every woman that gets approached like this in the ways that they've told them not to, that's going to ruin her life.
But how do you know people will necessarily tell the truth? If you say, how do you respect women or do you not? We've had asylum seekers lying about being Christians. We've had asylum seekers lying about being gay, for example. What do you think, Sebastian?
I think this is fantastic. There's nothing in this document that any of us would disagree with. I'd like to see this go further. I want this in universities. I want this in workplaces, because there are so many men and boys in this country that need educating on these issues. We're a country that has produced a horrible...
Show me the people in the workplace that don't know that rape is wrong.
Oh, you'd be very surprised. Oh, come on, Peter, you're in politics. You've worked in politics. You know what consent issues we have within our political parties.
That's a fair point.
And it happens in the corporate world as well. And,
so you think this is a guide that should be given to everybody?
Oh, yeah. And I think...
What does it say about our society? I mean, I'm coming round to your way of thinking, and I'm actually being persuaded by your argument, which is kind of weird for me. But you've made a really good point there, Sebastian. What does this say about our society that we have to say, you know, these are the rules, whether it's asylum seekers or anybody else, don't rape women, don't, you know, consent is a thing. I mean, that should be really basic knowledge that should be handed down to you, I don't know, by your friends, by your parents when you talk about sex, for example. I mean, it's horrendous that has to exist.
You would hope so, but I think education is a flank of tackling violence against women and girls. And sadly, not enough parents have those conversations with children because we're British, because it's awkward. We don't go there, and so little boys don't learn, and they grow up and they do awful things. And you know, you look at the Western world, and you've got Giselle Pellico in France. You've got that ring, I can't remember where it was in Britain, where one of them was a Tory councillor, and all sorts of horrible, unspeakable things happened. And all of that...
To say nothing of the rape gangs in many parts of England as well.
All of that goes to underscore the importance of what's contained in this document.
OK. Let's talk about prisons, because prisons are running out of space despite early releases. We also have a prison where they have about 300 spaces, but they can't get enough. Prison officers, the prison sex scandals have almost tripled as inmates have targeted new guards. We're going to be speaking to Vanessa Frake, former prison governor, about this a little bit later on as well. But there's a lot in this, isn't there, when it comes to the nature of our prisons and how things are. Candice?
Yeah, for me, I just find it utterly perverse that the failing bureaucracy means that you can't pursue proper justice. So someone's going to be released much earlier than they otherwise would have been because, I don't know, some sort of fire safety regulation wasn't met. I mean, how's our society ended up in this position? We just don't build anything anymore, and we're completely over-regulated. And that's what the problem is. That's what we should be fixing, not trying to adjust prison sentences to compensate for that. The whole thing needs to be rethought. The number one thing, though, in this country is we need to deregulate and get building again, and it would fix so much.
They say they want to do that, the government. They are going with the Conservative plans, actually, on building more prisons, which were quite ambitious, even though the net number of places... The Conservatives built about 12,000 prison places, but it was only about 500 more than existed before they came in 2010. What's your view on this, Sebastian?
I'm concerned because it's the third week in a row I've sat here and talked about this with you, and it feels like a very early crisis for Burnham, and it feels like, I think you said this the other day to me, the end of his honeymoon period. And
he's going to have to make a decision, particularly when it comes to PC Andrew Harper's killers as well. This is something they keep talking about, this game saying we're considering it, we're considering it, we're considering it. Well, here we are on the 19th of August. Parliament returns in early September, I think it's the 1st or 2nd of September, and they need to bring legislation to sort this particular issue out, to say nothing of the wider issue here.
Well, that's it. And, you know, if they do find a solution for PC Harper's killers, there are many, many more emotive stories. We've seen them on the front pages. There are many more people who can appeal to the Prime Minister, who can make media interventions.
And I know exactly what you're saying here, and I'm someone who signed the petition because I want the law to change. Nonetheless, and I say this with the greatest and deepest respect, and as someone who signed the petition, we can't legislate based on individual cases. We can't do that. We've got to have a proper... You know, individual cases come up because the law is flawed, and that's how we illustrate them, and that's correct. I think that they are brought up, and I have absolutely every sympathy with PC Harper's family. But we need to find just a better way to do this, Candice.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that, like you say, Burnham just walked into this. I mean, this was one of the things that made Keir Starmer's leadership start to shake a little bit with all the images of prisoners being released early under him. You'd think that they'd be able to avoid the optics, but they didn't. They walked straight into it.
Sebastian, it's only because I know you quite well, and I hope we're friends, that I can...
I'd say so.
That I want to read this out to you.
Try
this is quite challenging. Darren says, if the police need to look where Sebastian works, if people he works with don't know rape is wrong and compares young white kids to Somalian rapists, where did you find him? I actually think you have a point in that there are a lot of people who don't know the rules around rape, actually, and I want you to reply to Darren, if you would.
Yeah, and I'm not really talking from personal experience, fortunately.
Sure.
I'm just repeating what I've heard from other people who aren't safe always around their colleagues, who go out for drinks, have a few too many, and then do inappropriate things. And that happens in the offices around us, it happens in politics, it happens in all sorts of sectors, and that's extremely concerning. And it doesn't matter what gender, race, background anyone is from, it's always, always wrong. And we have a problem in Britain with that.
Angie's back in touch and says, sorry, Cardi P, but you tell me I'm wrong for calling someone a clown because I don't agree with her. You then go on to refer to a trans man as a robot built to annoy you. It doesn't matter what you think about trans people, but referring to them as built to annoy you is not only disgusting but also degrading. It's not about... OK, I'm just going to say it's not about that person being trans. It's about that person talking about trans rights in the way that they do, which I think is wrong, and also being really, really anti-Semitic. So, Angie, I'm afraid we're going to have to agree to disagree on that one, but thank you for your message. You're more than entitled to call someone a clown. I just don't think Pauline Eade is a clown, so I disagree with you, but I'm not saying you can't say what you're saying. Johnny from up north says, do these absurd Green Party useful idiots only exist because we give them the oxygen by effectively promoting them? Respect and follow your show. Sarah says, on the Green Party issue, what Sebastian Sebastian says, the only thing he's ever said on your show that I can agree with, says in Wales.
Which was anti-Semitism is bad. I'm glad we could agree on that.
I think we could probably all agree on that, although I'm not sure Eleonora does. Catherine in Cardiff says, what if Eleonora had said that anti-Islam instead of anti-Semite? Would he then have been arrested for a hate crime? Another anti-Sebastian one. Candice, you're getting off very lightly this evening. What's happening? Come on, there we are. Although we'll come to something much more important in a minute on Sebastian's comments. Gary says, who is this clown you have in the studio who thinks we should have had austerity during the Osborne years and shouldn't have borrowed more money back then? Thanks to the total mess that the outgoing Labour government left the public finances and the economy in, the coalition government had to borrow an average of around 7% of GDP each and every year of its 5 years in office. That's the equivalent today of adding about 210 billion to our national debt every year. If that's austerity, I shudder to think what he thinks loosening the purse strings look like.
I mean, austerity is the reason we have a prisons crisis, among many, many, many other issues. It is the undercurrent of most of our political problems now. We fast forward a little bit, we get past the Cameron Osborne years into 2016, 2017, and rates were under 1%. It was criminally cheap to borrow money, and we should have pounced on that, and we just didn't. OK. We have a voice note for, again, sorry, Candice, Sebastian. This happens every week.
I'm so left out.
I know. We can only assume everyone loves you. Sorry about that.
But what's worse, like hate or indifference, right?
Oh, that's a very good point.
Why do you think I keep coming back?
All right, Oscar Wilde over there. But it's the only thing worse than not being talked about. Sadia has some thoughts for Sebastian on a very important issue.
Peter, I absolutely hate Sebastian at the best of times because of his political views. I hate him even more now because he doesn't like Yorkshire pudding. Who doesn't love Yorkshire pudding with their Sunday roast? Sadia, Market Harborough.
Sadia, thank you. I'll go to Sebastian in a second, but this is a good question actually to ask the audience. What is the kind of thing that everyone supposedly likes that people? I don't like tomatoes, I don't like baked beans, and I don't like roast potatoes. Sebastian, would you like to briefly reply to Sadia?
The thing is, I love pancakes, and they're essentially just pancakes, aren't there? But there's something about them. Every time I've tried one, I felt really sick.
Slightly different.
And I really want to like them.
Candice, is there something that everyone else likes and you don't, apart from roast potatoes?
Pasta.
You don't like pasta?
I don't like pasta.
What? How do you get through uni?
I just don't. I mean, I have to make it all the time because it's all children want to eat, but I'm like, with every mouthful. Don't like it. And pizza as well.
Pizza?
I don't
like pizza.
Pizza and pasta.
Wow, your voice note's on its way.
Yeah. More voice notes incoming on Candice. Thank you both very much to Candice and indeed Sebastian. Every good wish for the wedding and indeed, of course, for the marriage as well, which is much more important. But I hope you have a lovely day and very good wishes to you and Candice and Sebastian. We'll see you very soon. Whatever you want to say, however you want to say it, get in touch. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us here on Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good evening. It's just gone 8 o'clock. This is the Evening Exchange. I'm Peter Cardwell. Thank you so much for your company this Wednesday evening. Lots to talk about. We'll talk to one of my favourite guests, Dr. Lisa McKenzie, in a second about this, the Home Office asylum seeker document telling people, reminding them and instructing them, don't rape our women. The fact that it has to be given to them, I think, is at least worthy of debate, and Lisa will tell us her thoughts on it in a second. Homelessness, huge story today because the Prime Minister wants to get everyone in, all the rough sleepers, including some of our veterans, everyone in for Christmas. He's thrown a lot of money at the problem. Will it work? What do you think? We'll also reflect on comments by a Labour MP to Jeremy this morning who says that colonialisation is to blame for illegal migration. What do you think of that? And the Green activist Eleonora Sophie Folan, a female representative on the Green Party's governing council in the East of England, who is, of course, a trans woman, so actually a man, and not a fan of Israel. Big shock there. In fact, doesn't even call it Israel, calls it Israel in inverted commas, and has said all sorts of things that I fundamentally disagree with, and I expect you will too. Whatever you want to talk about, let me know. 0344 499 1000. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell on Twitter. You can follow me on Instagram at CardwellPeter. You can send me a WhatsApp text message. You can send me a WhatsApp voice note. Send those through less than a minute, please. Tech Up Dave will listen to them. We'll play them out between now and 10. You can also give me a ring, of course. All of those on the main number, 0344 499 1000. Stay with me here in the Evening Exchange. Andrew's been in touch and said, I'm sorry, but people like Sebastian are the problem. He and his other uni graduates have no real life experience and everything is theory. I feel sorry for his poor wife with a life with someone like him. Well, I expect she's very happy enough to be married to him. Penny says if migrants or any male have to be told how not to rape women, they shouldn't be allowed out, allowed into our country, let alone allowed into our country. Unbelievable, says Penny. Darren says the difference is people in this country know rape is wrong. They are just evil. They need to be hanged. These third world criminals know no different. That's the difference. That's why they should never be allowed in. We do have a problem with violence against women and girls in this country from people who are born here as well, Darren. We'll talk about that in just a second with Dr. Lisa McKenzie. I just want to bring you through the day a little bit first, though, because Andy Burnham, the Prime Minister, has been talking about homelessness. His plan to throw a heck of a lot of money, nearly £500 million actually, at the problem and to get people in for Christmas here on our streets. This is what the Prime Minister has said.
This is the right thing to do. I feel very passionately about this. I spoke in Downing Street when I came into office about putting a care for people at the heart of everything that we do, and that can't be done and if you've got people who've just got nowhere to go and are left sleeping in the streets. In this country, I don't think in this day and age anybody should be forced to sleep rough. And actually, when you do leave people sleeping rough, it can often cost more to the state because people can be in and out of A&E and in and out of hospital beds and sometimes in contact with the police. It's just the right thing to do. And as Prime Minister, I want to waste no time in making those moves to say, no, this is who we are, this is how we should be. Nobody should sleep rough on the streets of Britain.
Sam Rushworth is a Labour MP. He was on Jeremy's show this morning talking about migration. Migration, of course, into this issue about understanding behaviours and expectations in the UK, the guide for asylum seekers that we'll be talking about in a second. Well, this is what Sam Rushworth said was the reason, or part of the reason, why we should accept asylum seekers. Let's hear what the Labour MP told Jeremy this morning on Talk.
I think what we do need to look at is what are the pull factors. And I think there's two big pull factors. One is that they speak the English language, you know, because we spent a couple of centuries going around the world colonising it and teaching everyone our language.
There's the reason that the Labour Party will forever allow people to come to this country.
They've got a network of people that speak our language. And the other is that there is a black economy, and we need to deal with the black economy.
Well, what do you make of those comments? 0344 499 1000. And just in the last few hours, we've seen the publication of this guide from the Home Office, Asylum, Consequences of Behaviour, Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK, a guide for asylum seekers. It gives them guidance on living in the UK, gender equality, domestic abuse, sex and consent, respect in public and getting help. There are all sorts of bits about gender equality. Women can, work and earn their own money, study and go to school or university, travel freely, choose who they marry or choose not to marry, make their own decisions about their lives. I mean, the fact that we're telling people this stuff. Domestic abuse includes physical violence, hitting, punching, pushing, kicking, any physical harm, threats, controlling behaviour, emotional abuse, taking away documents, sex and consent. Both people must say yes freely without threat or pressure. Someone can change their mind at any time, even if they said yes before. If someone is asleep, drunk or unable to respond, they cannot consent. In public spaces, you must never make sexual comments to someone, even if you think it is a compliment, whistle or make kissing noises at someone, follow someone or block their path, make rude or offensive gestures, verbally abuse someone because of their gender, religion or how they look. Well, Dr. Lisa Mackenzie is with me now, the academic and author. Just want to ask you what you think of this, Lisa. What do you think it says that, first of all, the Home Office thought, well, actually, we've got to give this to asylum seekers who have come to our shores?
Well, I think what the Home Office is doing with this, if I'm being completely honest, I think they are ticking boxes. That's what I think they're doing.
Okay.
I think what they are doing is they are aware that some of the men that are coming across on the boats, and they are mostly men, come from countries that do not understand the relationships between men and women in the West. They don't understand the relationships in families in the West. They're coming from perhaps war-torn places where there's been violence and aggression, and therefore, you know, they perhaps believe that violence and aggression is, you know, the way to live their lives. The Home Office know this. They do know this. They're sitting on the stats. They know this. And I think what this booklet is for, and this information, it's almost like to cover themselves. So what they can do is they can say, we have given the training. We have given the information out. These men have been told, you know, whatever happens now, not our fault. It's down to the individual. I think this is
it gets it off their hands, and they essentially say, well, we told them, they should have read it, they should have remembered this. And then when we have the inevitable harassment of women, when we have the inevitable sexual assaults and rape of women that happen, because we know this happens not just from people in this country, but from asylum seekers as well, then the Home Office can say, well, not our problem, Gov.
Yeah, I think what this is doing is blatantly passing this problem to the individual. They're individualising this problem, which is what they've done all along with asylum and refugees, is they've gone, you know, these are individuals. There might be a few bad apples, but on the whole, these are people, desperate victims coming over to have a better life. That's the narrative. On the whole, these people are coming for a better life. If there are a few bad apples, individuals, what can we do about that? Because there are bad apples in every society. And that has been the narrative for many, many years now. That narrative's not working with the public, though, anymore, is it? And what really is shocking about this, what really shocks me, you know, as a woman, you know, and I've been sort of fighting for women's rights for many, many years, for, you know, as long as I've been alive, probably. Where are the women's movements? Where are the women's groups? Where is Reclaim the Night that I remember in the 80s? You know, where are they now saying, hang on a minute, women and girls are not safe?
Yeah,
you know,
well, it doesn't fit their narrative, and we saw this. Sorry to bang on about Israel, as I often do, but when it comes to, it's a very, very good point, I think, to make when it comes to this argument. After the 7th of October, when there were loads of women who were raped, women who were kidnapped, women who were horrible things, mutilated, horrible things happened to them as well, including being raped, including being mutilated and sexually abused, loads of different things. Where were the women's charities? And here we are with asylum seekers, knowing when there are attacks, there is a very big silence, a breathtaking silence from so many women's rights organisations, because it doesn't fit their narrative.
No, it's believe all women, but not these women. And that's what I've found amongst the left women's movements, actually, is, oh, we must believe all women. Oh, hang on a minute, but not these women. Not poor women, not working class women, not working class girls.
With the rape gangs,
Yeah, we have seen this. I have seen this time and time and time again, that believe all women, oh, but not those. Not Israeli women, not poor white girls on council estates. Definitely don't believe them. And this is why this really is worrying, because when we are in a society that already doesn't believe some women, who already treats those victims, and we've seen this with the grooming gangs, we can't deny that this is not related, because it is. When we've got a society that says, actually, these girls, these women, they're not actually worth listening to, they're not worth looking out for, then we invite over men who perhaps don't understand the culture. Perhaps they've got a different, well, they definitely have got a different relationship to women. You know, I still can't believe that a few days ago, we were looking at Afghanistan 5 years ago since the Taliban took over. One of the biggest things that we were talking about is the rights of women in Afghanistan. And yet we have got thousands of Afghani men coming into the country and wondering, oh, I wonder why they're not treating women particularly well. Look where they have come from, and yet we know that that's wrong. But what we're doing here is being politically blind.
Yeah. I just think all of that makes perfect sense. Lisa, thank you. A lot of common sense from Dr. Lisa McKenzie, academic and author there. What do you think of what she said there about this Home Office asylum seeker document? Let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. One texter says, give them a pamphlet in France that says you're breaking the law. If you cross the channel, I'm leaving this dustbin. The UK has become what a joke. Louise says, just as a matter of interest, these leaflets offering guidance to migrants on how not to rape our women and children, what language are they being offered in, given none of them can understand English? I think probably a number of languages, I would imagine. Darren in East Yorkshire says, why would we even need this ridiculous pamphlet if the illegal immigrants and asylum seekers weren't allowed out in public? Why are we bussing them into towns like Braintree in the first place? Alex says, after helping many people in Cardiff off the streets, the problem was they would always choose drugs and get kicked out of the Kickstart schemes because they dig drugs on the premises. Do you find this too a problem, Peter? Yes, I certainly have. In the past, I've never really worked on a day-to-day level with homeless people. I have been out in a few shifts with various to observe, really, with excellent charities such as St Mungo's and others as well. I know there's brilliant work done by Thames Reach and others, and often it does feel sometimes 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Jenny in Somerset's been in touch. During COVID, the government put homeless people unannounced into my son's university accommodation. He was accosted every night by men asking for money or food in the lobby. It was unsafe. I hope Burnham's new policy doesn't put students or anyone in this kind of situation. Dave in New Zealand says, I notice our Andy's catchphrase is, it's the right thing to do, but should it extend to, but don't know how to do it. Joanna says, do removing homeless people from the streets, including those opposite the Dorchester Hotel in Park Lane in London, the ones that said about Samara Gill from Albania and Romania that she tried to interview. Very, very good point there, Joanna. I expect it does. Actually, a lot of them will be foreign nationals, including the people who treated Samara absolutely appallingly. Burnham could use his buses as mobile dormitories. He'd love that. The bloke isn't a serious politician. The Mayor of Britain needs to go back to the showers and stay there. Martin in Litchfield says, Andy Burnham hasn't explained where these homeless people will stay, how many will use it, and who will work there. And Chris says, if the North is such an economic backwater, why do I want Northerners making economic decisions? What next? Move the office for children to Rotherham, says Chris in Newbury. Well, I suppose the point... It's a good point, Chris, but I think the point Andy Burnham would say is that economic development in Manchester was better than lots of other parts of the country. But anyway, listen, it's a really good point. And Dawn says, I have a terrible feeling Andy Burnham is using his Prime Minister role to carry out a social experiment on us. He looks out of his depth, and the number 10 of the North is a charade. We will go to the phones in a second. Keith and Tommy are standing by. We'll speak to them straight after the break. If you want to get on that call list and you want me to have a chat with you between now and 10, please do give me a shout. I'd love to hear from you. 0344 499 1000.
some member of the public, they said, if you were Andy Burnham, what would be the first thing that you would sort out in the UK? And I was thinking of what would be the popular consensus, not the political consensus, because I don't think the public are as concerned about rough sleeping as they are about potholes. Why doesn't he sort out the potholes and send a message to people, we're actually going to improve the quality of life in the United Kingdom? And
but
so
potholes don't matter as much as people. I mean, you've got to say that.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's hear a voice note from Mandy. This is about what the Labour MP said, Sam Rushwood, on Jeremy's show this morning.
Hi, Peter. Lovely to see you. Just a quick voice note. That Buffon man, the Labour MP that was on this morning with Jeremy, honestly, I could have thrown my coffee at the telly, but that would be no good because I can't afford a new telly. I can't believe what he was saying. They're all stupid. And who on earth voted Labour? Oh, my goodness, it just, it's annoying.
Mandy, thanks very much for that. And listen, I think a lot of people will feel the same way when they hear those comments. Nick's been in touch as well about Polly Neat, Baroness Neat.
Hi, Peter. Nick in Mansfield. So we've got a Baroness there from the House of Lords telling us there's no evidence to say that we're importing any violence against women and girls. There we go. Everything that's wrong with the country. They're in front of their eyes. They cannot see it. What the heck is wrong? Cheers.
Nick, thank you. Let's hear from Scott.
Hi, Cardi P. Scott from Ipswich here. Andy Burnham's getting involved in all the sort of parochial stuff like buses and homeless stuff, which is really important. But he's a Prime Minister. He should be dealing with the big stuff, managing that and actually making our lives better. He has ministers should be looking after those domestic matters for him. So, yes, make these announcements, but spending 3 hours in a bus garage isn't what I want this guy to be doing. I want him to be getting our economy going, getting jobs going, being overseas, sorting our country out and promoting the country and making it better, not dealing with small issues that he's got a team of people behind him to deal with it. That's my view.
Scott,
good night.
Thank you, Scott, for that. Let's go to Keith in Hampshire on the migrants' guidance. This is the Home Office Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK document. Keith has given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. You're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say, Keith?
Hello, Peter. I tried to get through to Kevin O'Sullivan earlier, but he was busy. But so
well, listen, I'm sorry you didn't get the A list.
No,
so
don't apologise.
You can talk to the B lister anyway.
You're not a B lister, mate. Don't worry about that. I was going to talk about other things, but when this pamphlet thing come out, they're handing out pamphlets about they're handing out pamphlets. You shouldn't rape girls and beat them up and all that, and you shouldn't do this. What's this country come to? Can somebody explain?
Do you think? Well, first of all, I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly where you're coming from. It is horrendous to think that is necessary. The thing is, it's necessary for asylum seekers, clearly, because the Home Office have decided it is. Do you think it's necessary for some other people in this country too, maybe, Keith?
Well, it doesn't matter what country they're from. They should look. If at the end of the day, if someone's getting off a boat, right, you don't know who they are, where they're from. They're all young men, fighting age men, and I'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
Right. In my opinion, if they're handing out pamphlets, don't do this, don't rape women, don't beat them up, don't rape little girls.
Yeah.
Then that's because the government printed them in the first place.
Yeah.
That's an admission of guilt. They know what's going on, but we're still letting them in. That's the way I see it. Otherwise, you wouldn't bother printing the pamphlets in the first place.
It's a very interesting point, and it is about, they say anyway, the title of it is Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK. And I mean, there's one section about living in the UK, which is we understand that coming to a new country can be difficult and that laws and customs may be different from your home country. And it really doesn't say anything about anything other than gender equality, domestic abuse, sex and consent, respect in public, which is a lot to do with, of course, you know, wolf whistling and harassing people and so on. And really, that's it. I mean, what is interesting is the title of the document is Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK, but the vast majority of it is about treating women. And I'm not saying that shouldn't be the case, but there are lots of other behaviours and expectations in the UK about how you treat people, about what you do, how you say, you know, the things that we all know, Keith, that could, in theory, be part of a much larger document. But here we are, we've got this, I don't know what it is, 10, 12 page, 8 or 9 page document here, and the vast majority is essentially the message of don't harass or attack women. I'm not saying that shouldn't be in there necessarily. I'm saying that there are lots of other things too. So why have they specifically chosen this?
Yeah, but my point is, if you have to give a pamphlet, you know, like if I went to a different country on holiday or something, if I had to have a pamphlet saying don't do this, don't do that, you know, don't beat up matey, don't rape that little girl over there, then there's something very wrong.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Listen, thanks for your call, Keith. I appreciate that. Let's go to Tommy in West Lothian. You're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hi, Peter. Listen to your last call. I'm pretty much mirroring what that guy said.
It is astonishing that this guide has had to come out, and I choose the basic level of really straightforward stuff that you've got to explain to people that they should know already. And the fact is, a lot of people coming from countries where this isn't what they do. This isn't, you know, treating women with respect. We slam this country a lot. We say there are lots of problems in this country, and there are. But in general, most people, not everybody, but most people, male and female, know that respect for other people is incredibly important.
My question is, Peter, I mean, it's a question that so many people have. Why are we bringing these, basically, I mean, forgive me, but why are we bringing these Neanderthal men? In fact, they're less than Neanderthal.
Well, it's a really, I mean, I think you, Tommy, might be interested to hear what Dave has to say here. A message that's come in here saying, evening, Peter, the Windrush men, the Hindu men, the Polish men, the Chinese men didn't need booklets when they arrived in the UK to say women should be treated with respect. Their cultures already know that.
They're brilliant. I have no issue with any of the above. Terrific. But we're bringing people who are thousands of years behind us in their development. And I don't even think, as I said before, that Neanderthal men would have treated their women like that. But we're inviting these people in here, and I work damn hard 6 and 7 days a week, pay my taxes, and pay an exuberant and ridiculous amount of tax so that I can support the people coming into this country that none of us asked for. We weren't asked if we wanted to.
In fact, we have told the government, successive governments, many, many times over nearly 2 decades now, sort it out, do something about it. There are too many people, system isn't working. And they're not listening, Tommy. They're just not listening. Instead, they're saying, oh yeah, we'll just keep bringing them in and we'll give them a little pamphlet and say don't rape people and that's fine.
There's going to be, I reckon there's going to be an uprising, a civil war. There's something really serious is going to happen in this country.
There's a lot of anger out there, Tommy. Let's hope we don't get to that side of things. But listen, thank you. Appreciate that. Let's do another couple of voice notes, actually. One I'd particularly like to hear on homelessness from Debs.
Evening, Peter. Great to hear you talking about homelessness. And Mr. Burnham, with regards to the military, there are certain people that just can't go back into society because of what they've been through. Therefore, they want to reject it. They're quite happy living in a tent or sofa surfing. That needs to be taken into account. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. You know, you can take a horse to water and let it drink, but if that horse doesn't want to drink, then you're back to square one. So him taking everybody off the streets, maybe in some respects, is against their will. Very sad. Anyway, great show, as always. Keep up the good work. Take care. Debs from Lincolnshire.
Debs, really appreciate that. Let's go to Andy in Merseyside, 0344 499 1000, the number he has called. Andy, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hi, Peter. Nice to talk to you again. And I could talk to you about the horrifying stuff about this pamphlet that's being distributed, but I want to talk to you about the homelessness and the issue with regard to providing them some accommodation.
Yeah.
I did a police career of 30 years, a job I no longer recognise, by the way. But what I want to say is, in respect of the homelessness, a considerable amount of these people have been offered places to stay, and they will not conform to the rules of the place.
Yeah.
Things like drug taking, drug dealing, alcohol abuse, substance abuse, violent behaviour, bringing in stolen property, sexual activity, aggressive behaviour. This is what is happening, and the naivety of this gaslighting Labour government is absolutely unbelievable.
Do you think that simply getting people under a roof is just not the solution here? I mean, how do you think it should be tackled? Do you think we've got to tackle the criminality aspect of it, the rules aspect, whether it's drugs or alcohol or whatever it is, before we offer accommodation to these people? How would you tackle it, Andy, with your 3 decades of experience? Presumably, you've come across many homeless people.
Definitely. And the reality is, there is nothing to stop these people from staying or leaving. And what we end up is in a situation where they make the hostels, etc., unsafe, and people will not stay on the street because of the behaviour. And all that will happen is you end up with the police going to these hostels, arresting people. They're back there, and people will not stay somewhere where they don't feel safe or where they feel there's drugs. If you've got a substance problem and you're going to go to a hostel and somebody's offering you substances and you're determined to stick it out, the problem is we are watching a society breakdown. That's what we're watching at the moment, and unfortunately, the uni parties that we've had for the last 15, even 20 years, are determined to do nothing about it.
Okay. Andy, listen, thanks for your thoughts. I really appreciate it, and good to talk to you again. Let's hear one more voice note before the break. This is from Stuart, talking about Sebastian and the leaflet.
I'm afraid we're going to have to agree to disagree here, Peter. Sebastian saying that leaflet should go, that horrible leaflet should go to everyone, suggests that we're all as bad as the foreigners that are coming in. That is not the case. There may be the odd one. And then, actually, when he was questioned on it, he just said, oh, it's what I've heard, not from personal experience. That is almost behaving like a clown, I'm sorry. We're not like that. We're not all like that. I work in a big organisation. We're definitely not like that. Pull your socks up. Thanks, Stuart.
Stuart, thanks very much for your message. I really appreciate that. Dee in Chesterfield says, does the government document include the advice, if you see an elderly man walking past a church, it is our custom to say good evening and not subject him to a 20-minute sexual assault? That's referring to a story from a few days ago. Absolutely horrific story about that elderly man who was raped by asylum seekers, by the look of things. Mike in Milton Keynes says, what a waste of time. The majority of these illegals cannot either speak, let alone read English, so more money for translators. Becca says, Keir Starmer, it's the right thing to do. Andy, bus him, it's the right thing to do. Stop the sodding boats, it's the right thing to do, says Becca. Tommy in West Lothian says Enoch Powell wasn't a racist, he was a realist, and because no one listened to him, our country is going to the dogs. And Phil in Portsmouth says, I love Candace, absolutely fabulous. It's just a shame I'm not looking for my next ex-wife, says Phil in Portsmouth. I will pass that on to Candace, and I expect it will raise a smile. After the break, we'll be talking to Vanessa Frake, former prison governor, about yet more prison issues in our society. Big stories today on all of this. Prisons are running out of space despite the early releases, and prison sex scandals as well they almost triple as inmates are targeting new guards. We'll get the Frake common sense on that in just a second. Stay with us here on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Lots to discuss, and thank you to everybody who has been in touch. Reg in Southampton says, it's the first time I've ever seen Sebastian on any show where I haven't wanted to throw a brick through my TV. I'm either getting softer, Sebastian's moving to the right. I don't think it's the former, says Reg in Southampton. Richard in Leicester says, all these gimmicks to introduce migrants, Sebastian thinks it's great. History will tell the truth, depends whose side you're on with the population. And also on Eleonora, who is the Green activist. I will personally pay for Eleonora to go to Palestine for a one-month holiday. Let's see how he gets on when he's there. Probably not so vocal as he is here. Great show, says Mark in Runcorn. And Dawn, talking about Eleonora as well, says, my first thought is that the circus is in town when I saw Eleonora in your clip. And Terry in Sly says, I'm 77. In my opinion, Burnham has done the impossible. I think he is actually worse than Starmer. Let's talk about something else, actually, now. This is the prisons running out of space despite the early releases. Also, the prison sex scandal almost tripling as inmates target new guards. Always really, really important issues, and we will talk about them in a second with Vanessa Frake, who's Vanessa Frake MBE, former prison governor. And Vanessa, I am always very interested when people's job titles change. You're now a former Justice Advisor to Reform UK. Was it because Nigel said you had to go to El Salvador?
No, absolutely not, Peter. My world has just like exploded, and unfortunately, I have to, delete one or two things, and unfortunately, it was Reform Justice Advisor. There is no animosity between me and Nigel, and I will still report, support Reform and Nigel. So no,
you're not the sort of prison version of Tim Montgomery then.
No, God, no. Absolutely not.
Okay.
Peter, I have known you long enough. You should not think that.
No, I don't think that, Vanessa, and I will take your word for it, certainly. You're a very trustworthy person. Tell us about these prisons running out of space despite early releases. I suppose when they release people early, some of those people get caught again and then they've got to go back in.
Well, look, since Shabana Mahmood invented the early release scheme and released over 70,000 prisoners, it became, all of those 70,000 we're never going to be not recalled. So those prisoners have come back into the prison system, and also, you know, we've had a lot of the police have arrested a lot of people. So it was never going to, the early release scheme, Peter, is never going to work. Never, ever.
So what should they do? What do they need to do? And I mean, obviously build more prison places is the longer term solution, but how would you deal with this in the short term, Vanessa?
Well, look, I think the short term is we have to look at the prisoners that we've actually got. So we've got a lot of foreign nationals. We've got over 6,000 that are convicted. Get rid of them. Wherever they came from, get rid of them. We have women's prisons, a lot of women prisoners who are non-violent, non-sexual, non-anything. We have those women's prisons that we can use to recategorise into male jails. But I think, Peter, you know, we've got to this point over time. We've talked about this a long time, and I think it just keeps going on and on and on. We're never going to solve this unless we have a huge building of prisons. You know, the Labour government have said that they're going to do 14,000 prison places by 2030. Well, that isn't going to be enough, because by 2030, the prison population is going to be over 100,000.
Yes, absolutely. And another problem that we're reading about today is that more prisoners are having sex with prison guards, for prison officers, for example. They've almost tripled these sex scandals. What do you make of this, Vanessa?
Well, look, you know,
has it been something that's come up in not necessarily personally, but in your career?
Oh, absolutely, but not to the extent that it is now. We have poor training, poor vetting, poor support. What do you expect? You know, 5 weeks to train a prison officer who goes onto a landing, who is met by manipulative prisoners who absolutely can see who is vulnerable, who is needy, who can, you know, look, Peter, you can apply to join the prison service when you're 17,
yes,
and start on your 18th birthday.
No, exactly. And there are so many issues with that. Vanessa, listen, thank you. That's Vanessa Frake, their former prison governor there. Really appreciate her joining us on the programme and clearing up as well why she's a former advisor to Reform UK. Let's go to Marie in Barry, who wants to talk about, as many of you do, about this Home Office guidance, understanding behaviours and expectations in the UK. I mean, Marie, what do you make of it?
I think it's utterly ridiculous. The fact, first of all, that they called it a guide.
Yeah, I mean, it's the law.
It's not a guide. It's a lot of those things in it. They are the law here. It's not a guide. A guide suggests that you can do it if you don't want. You know, you can adhere to it, or if you don't want to, you don't have to.
Yes,
yes,
yes.
So this is utterly ridiculous, and well, somebody else pointed out earlier that they must be producing it in lots of different languages.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what do you think it says that they have to produce it in the first place?
Well, they shouldn't be here. If we've got to produce that document, then those people who have to be shown it shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But somebody else said, if you go to another country, whether it be on holiday for a working visa, student visa, you don't go there and have to have a guide about how you have to behave.
Yes, yes. No,
and
definitely.
It's not about suggesting local customs and this is what you must do if you go in to, like in another country, you go into a place of worship. You go to a place of worship in another country, there is dress codes, should you cover your head, this and whatever. This is not a guide about what you should or should not do. It's the law, and we shouldn't be letting people in that have to be told this.
Yeah. Very good point,
calling
Mary.
it a guide is misleading from the Home Office. It's not a guide. These are the laws in this country.
Absolutely correct, and a lot of common sense there, Marie. Thank you for your call from Barry in Wales there. Rob in Hampshire says, if Burnham is so keen on devolution, does he support Rayner riding a coach and horses over local councils in respect of travellers? We certainly talked about that and had a big debate about it actually a few nights ago. I think it was Monday night. Penny says, well, I'll read that out in a minute. Alex says, a really simple solution is to tag the people as they're illegal immigrants until they know if allowed to stay here and be granted asylum. If they don't like it, I'm afraid, go somewhere else, then British people will be much safer. I don't think it is that much of an infringement, as we have to know where they are to protect mainly women and children. Alex, I don't disagree with you at all, actually. I think that is a good idea. The problem is monitoring those tags, which is a major problem in the prison service, certainly. Sam says, regarding Sebastian, why won't the left acknowledge that the cultural instinct related to the treatment of women is fundamentally different in countries of origin compared to the UK? The majority of these men aren't educated to treat women with respect that leads to the disproportionate number of sex attacks committed by migrants. Andrew in Salisbury says they should distribute those leaflets on how to treat or not treat women in the Houses of Parliament. Dean in Ealing in West London says, I'm sick to death of those idiots putting our men in the same basket as them. The vast majority of us know how to behave. Most of us have mothers, sisters, aunties. This was not, there was not a sexual assault epidemic until they turned up. There are some wrong ones, I grant you, but 99% know how to behave. Well, Dean, I think you're largely right. There is a major problem with violence against women and girls in this country. It has not been helped by people from alien cultures, but it did exist to at least some degree beforehand. Michelle says some of these people are not like the others. This is an admission that these people are dangerous. This complicit government is ruining our lives. It's spoiling it for all of us. It's not racist to want to feel safe around your own kind. Why is it only white people made to feel guilty for wanting this? Marush in Durham says, I feel that successive governments have failed the indigenous population of the UK in terms of immigration. I've read writings and behaviour that span 300 years in this country, and I feel this document is another mechanism to divide us all. While I agree with the cause, I fear that it firstly denigrates women in general. Secondly, it does, as your caller suggests, the government's own admission on this topic. And thirdly, that such a document has a need to be published is beyond belief. A sad indictment of what our country has become indeed, says Marush in Durham. Another person says, it's obvious the government, this is Dave, says, it's obvious the government have looked at criminal conviction statistics broken down by nationality for the years 2018 and know it will cause civil unrest. That's why they've released this pamphlet. They have seen the hard facts. And a nice one from Penny. I try not to read out these too often, otherwise my head will explode, but I will. On this one, she says, because of your modesty, you probably won't read this out, but I hope you do. You're one of the very few talk presenters who read out the negative and sometimes rude text from some viewers. A lot bypass them. They only read the positive and glowing text, but it shows the kind of person you are who takes the rough for the smooth and reads them out. You're a credit to talk, fair, knowledgeable and never disagreeable. Penny, you're very kind, certainly not disagreeable to you. And listen, I mean, I don't want, Penny's absolutely right, and I don't want any of my shows to be somewhere where I simply say, this is the way things are. If you disagree with me, you are absolutely wrong. I have very strong opinions about lots of things. And there are things that I will tell people you're wrong, but I mean, I learn stuff all the time. I changed my opinion ever so slightly when I spoke to Sebastian earlier on. You know, I hear from really intelligent people who know things about the prison service, like Vanessa, for example, Lisa McKenzie, fantastic guest. I love this job, and I do want to know what you think, whether it's positive, negative, whatever it is, whether you think I'm talking nonsense, whether you think my guests are talking nonsense, because this is my show, but it's your show too, and that is the beauty of talk. So keep your comments coming in, 0344 499 1000. We'll talk about immigration a bit more. A French politician demanding Britain's hand over more cash to tackle migrants. He has branded the UK a permanent attraction. We'll find out all about him from Henry Bolton, the international border security expert, in just a second. Stay with us here on Talk.
we have to stand up to the French. We have to be much tougher. We have to stop. I mean, the pull factor is huge, but even without the pull factor, there are going to be people who, want to come across that bit of ocean and come to us. And I just think, once again, we do a lot of talking about it, and Andy Burnham, every time he's interviewed, says, oh yes, but there's fewer boats coming. There may be fewer boats coming, but they're actually bigger boats and they're holding just as many people. I think the money we're giving to France is unbelievably big for what they're doing for us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Alison's been in touch and says, as a former police officer, many homeless were happier to be on the streets. They don't want the responsibility that comes with being in a home, hostel or hotel. They drink and take drugs, and that is not an option if they are housed. They build up friendships with other people on the streets and feel safer being in a group. Some have dogs because they get benefit money to provide food for their animal. It's not simple for them. They need to be respected. Well, listen, there are, I think, a lot of people who are on the streets who would like a permanent home. There are some who don't want that home or have refused help. There are also loads of complex reasons around it as well. I remember going out on one of those shifts that I did when I was a special advisor, just literally 3 or 4. I'm not saying I did anything more than I should have done, or, I'm not blowing my own trumpet here. I'm simply saying that factually I went out in sort of 3 or 4 different shifts, and I saw people and they were saying, let's get you into a shelter tonight, and the person went, no, I'll be fine. I said, well, why would they not want that? And some of the homelessness workers knew people really, really well because they dealt with them for many years. And they said, look, that person was in a care home and was abused in a care home, and that's partly why lack of family background and lack of family structure, essentially, contributed to that person being on the streets. And they don't like institutions. They don't like people who tell them what to do. They don't like settings where they live with other people under a roof, because that reminds them of the care home where they were abused. I mean, there are just stories like that all the time. Alison says, I still think you're unwell, Peter. Alison, I think I'm fighting fit, but I appreciate your concern, definitely. I was definitely unwell last week actually, but feeling 100% now. A little bit tired, but that's okay. I've got a holiday coming up in a week's time, just for a few days, heading off to Edinburgh. Paul says, women guards in a prison full of men. Who would have thought that this might not be a problem? Beggars belief the decisions prison authorities make. They'll be giving the prisoners keys next. And Grant says they're encouraged to come here illegally, rewarded for it, given legal aid for everything that enforces their beliefs when they say all cultures are equal. Well, on that note, actually, a French politician has demanded that we British taxpayers hand over more cash to tackle migrants. He has branded the UK a permanent attraction, and similarly, the Home Office says it's scared of scrutiny, or has been accused of being scared of scrutiny, I should say, as it has rushed through a plan to build one of Europe's biggest immigration centres on a seafront site. For more on both of these, let's speak to Henry Bolton, the international border security expert. Let's tell us first about this French politician, Henry.
Yeah, well, his argument is that the British state is making the United Kingdom an attractive destination, and that is why migrants are travelling through Europe to reach the North French coast with the intention to come to the United Kingdom. And that's obviously putting pressure on the communities and the local government in the north of France, and on policing in the north of France. So, he's saying it's our fault that these migrants are there, and the French are having to pay for it, and that's wrong. So he's also saying that he thinks that France should put more pressure on the United Kingdom through charging the UK more, put pressure on the UK to actually start to enforce our own rules here. I actually think he's right. We have a lot of legislation relating to illegal working, or people who do not have the right to work are working, and we simply don't put the resources into dealing with things like that. We're providing all sorts of accommodation and benefits, whether it's free dental checks or whatever. The United Kingdom, some people might not think it, but we are an incredibly attractive destination. And he's right. That is why these people gather in the north of France with the intention of coming here. So, you know, I'm on his side on this. Yes, I think the French could do more, but we are not helping ourselves in the slightest.
Interesting, Henry, that this French politician has said this and helping us as well. I mean, is the rush to build this immigration centre on a seafront site, is that something that you think hasn't been thought through, or is it just the Home Office saying, let's do this quickly and get it done? Frankly, Peter, nothing's being thought through properly. And when what is this going to do? You know, what is going to happen to the people who, for example, aren't accepted? Where do they go then? Yes. The problem is that we are not doing anything to reduce the flow to the north of France. And once there, because that flow is being facilitated by organised criminals who provide, if you like, the service as to the demand, then what's going to happen is that these people can't go back because nobody's facilitating the return movement. So they're stuck in the north of France. And even if only 1% are successful in getting through, this is going to that movement is still going to happen. So none of this is thought through. There is no integrated, comprehensive strategy for dealing with it. We're not dealing with the appeal of the UK. We're not dealing with the physical controls on our border adequately. We're not dealing with the organised criminality that is moving people to the North French coast and across the Channel. Frankly, we've had a succession of governments that are looking at headline responses to little packets of the problem. And it is only when you get somebody with serious strategic nous who's able to combine diplomatic effort, intelligence effort, policing effort, border security effort, your benefits effort, your housing effort, all the rest of it, and detention, because the only way really to solve this problem and make the UK an unattractive destination is to securely detain every single illegal migrant until such time as we can remove them, or they decide they want to go home and they ask to go back to wherever they came from. That is the only thing that's going to work. In the meantime, it's an interesting question, Peter. Why are we not enforcing our own laws? Yeah. From everything from monitoring slaughterhouses, and halal slaughter as well, all the way through to illegal working. On that note, Henry, I wonder, we've had a load of reaction this evening to this document, Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK, a guide for asylum seekers. I wonder what you think of it in general, but what I've noticed about it is that very little of it is about behaviours and expectations in the UK generally, and if we just keep that bit on the screen if we can, you can see that the first bit is living in the UK, which is a really general section. Getting help is a very general section. We've got gender equality, domestic abuse, sex and consent, respect in public. All of that is to do with treatment of women and sexual stuff, essentially. And that is the vast majority of this document. I just wonder what you make of it.
Yeah, well, it's an acknowledgement, isn't it, Peter, that the people from some of the cultures that are coming, or some of the people from other cultures that are arriving in the United Kingdom, do not share our values, do not share our social behavioural norms, and are a threat to public safety. That's this document is an acknowledgement of that. And instead of educating migrants by giving them a brochure, we should be educating migrants, illegal migrants, by detaining them, as I say, securely. That is, the vast majority of these people who come across the Channel, I'm talking about the illegals, a lot of the lawful immigration as well, we do not know who these people are. They are unvetted. We are whatever story they give us, most of the time it's not possible to corroborate it. We know for a fact that there have been terrorists in there. We know for a fact that there have been murderers that have come across the UK to evade justice in other countries. We know for a fact that many of these people have gone on to commit rapes and other serious sexual assaults and other crimes, and yet we are allowing them to walk free on our streets. I think that is an abrogation of the duty of the government to safeguard the British public. So again, the solution is to securely detain every single one of them. That would be a deterrent factor. It would also safeguard the British people, and there would be no need to issue these sort of documents. And frankly, if we are giving anybody leave to remain in the United Kingdom who does not already sign up to our laws, our social norms, our culture, and so on, then they should not be here. There is a problem with the whole system. Its default is that these people should be allowed to come into the country willy-nilly, and then let's kind of guide them a little bit. No, the default should be securing the safety of the British people.
Yeah. Henry, thank you as always. That is Henry Bolton there, the International Border Security expert. Let's hear from Tristan on the Home Office leaflet. There's another voice note.
So, Peter, Tristan in Bedford. This booklet as regards to how migrants are supposed to live here and treat women. The thing is, you've got a couple of issues here. One is, even if they have it put in their language, how are they going to interpret the law and understand the words used? I mean, seriously, if they actually know this is the case, how on earth are they allowing these men to come into the country? It seriously looks like women and children are just collateral damage to this government. It's just absolutely sickening. It really, really is. I mean, the mind actually boggles. It really, really does. I literally can't think of anything positive about this government.
Tristan, thank you for that. Margaret's also been in touch. It says the migrants should not be allowed to roam freely. They should be in secure units until they are deported. And Jules in Bridgend says this country is very close to the edge, in my opinion. The ECHR laws ruined our way of life since October 1999 when Blair brought it in. We need a referendum on ECHR or common sense law. Start the campaign, please, says Jules. Thank you for that. Lots more to discuss on all of this in the next hour. We'll take more of your calls, texts, tweets and voice notes. There is more time in the 9 o'clock hour to get your voice on the air, so do send us a voice note or give me a ring on 0344 499 1000. We'll talk about Number 10 North, we'll talk about Andy Burnham and his donations, we'll talk about the election expert who claimed the anti-Semitism crisis was invented by the Zionist lobby and is now a Green representative for women despite being a man. Stay with us here on Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, it's just gone 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for your company here on the Evening Exchange. Lots of opportunity, especially in the 9 o'clock hour, to get your voice on the air. So much to discuss today. Andy Burnham talking about homelessness. Is colonialisation to blame for illegal immigration? That is what one Labour MP hinted anyway to Jeremy Kyle this morning. We'll talk about that. Also, the female representative of the Green Party's governing council for the East of England is, of course, a man. And power shifting, putting growth in the hands of number 10 North. We'll talk about Andy Burnham, as well as UK borrowing costs reaching a 2-decade high. Loads of people also want to talk about this Home Office guide, understanding behaviours and expectations in the UK, a guide for asylum seekers. Most of it is about how not to rape or sexually assault women. Loads of people wanting to get their voice on the air on that, and we will give you time to do that between now and 10. Do give me a shout. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me at 7222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell on Twitter. You can follow me at Cardwell Peter on Instagram. You can drop me a voice note. We've had plenty of those this evening. Let's have some more between now and 10. You can send me a WhatsApp text message or give me a ring, all on the main number 0344 499 1000. Stay with us here on Talk. Ross has been in touch from Southampton on the migrant advice booklet. He says, let's be frank, that even from the countries that we're accepting thousands of illegal economic immigrants, these countries also have intelligent and educated people who would not require this level of education about basic values if they came to this country to seek asylum, as you may do in any country. The point is we are allowing in the dregs of society from these countries to come into our once great nation, and therefore, of course, we have to educate them because they are uneducated. If they were applying through a proper system for visas, they would have to meet a certain criteria. It seems, unfortunately, the only criteria required is to pay an illegal gang to put you on the boat. Fiona says, I've never messaged in before, but I was compelled to do so after Jeremy and Isabel Oakeshott this morning suggested the illegal immigrants should be moved to Scotland. This is the second time I've heard this on Talk. As a Scot, I'm horrified. Why aren't we talking about deporting them? We shouldn't be placating the situation by making concessions for them and finding a place to put them either other than the boats back to where they came from. They need to go. We have plenty already. Have you been to Glasgow recently and read about the issues and protests in Falkirk, says Fiona. And one more before we go to the clips today. Jay says, why don't we just bring back the Bibby Stockholm, fill it with illegal migrants and sail it off away from the UK? Migrant problem solved, argues Jay. Well, I just want to take you through some of the news of the day, specifically when it comes to two bits of Labour news, which I'm going to discuss with John Rentoul in a second. Firstly, the Prime Minister talking about his plan, multi-million-pound plan, to try to tackle rough sleeping, people sleeping on the streets, and he wants everybody in by Christmas. This is what he said earlier.
This is the right thing to do. I feel very passionately about this. I spoke in Downing Street when I came into office about putting a care for people at the heart of everything that we do, and that can't be done and if you've got people who've just got nowhere to go and are left sleeping in the streets. In this country, I don't think in this day and age anybody should be forced to sleep rough. And actually, when you do leave people sleeping rough, it can often cost more to the state because people can be in and out of A&E and in and out of hospital beds and sometimes in contact with the police. It's just the right thing to do. And as Prime Minister, I want to waste no time in making those moves to say, no, this is who we are, this is how we should be. Nobody should sleep rough on the streets of Britain.
Another interesting missive from a Labour MP was talking to Jeremy Kyle this morning. This is Sam Rushworth, who blamed colonialisation for illegal migration. Let's see what happened on the breakfast show this morning.
I think what we do need to look at is what are the pull factors. And I think there's two big pull factors. One is that they speak the English language, you know, because we spent a couple of centuries going around the world colonising it and teaching everyone our language.
There's the reason that the Labour Party will forever allow people to come to this country.
They've got a network of people that speak our language. And the other is that there is a black economy, and we need to deal with the black economy.
Let's speak to John Rentoul, who's the chief political commentator of The Independent. John, you're very welcome to the programme, as always. What do you make of this plan to get everyone in by Christmas? I'm a former special advisor in the Ministry of Housing. I dealt specifically with homelessness. I wish Andy Burnham really, really well in this. I want him to succeed. I don't want anybody to be sleeping on our streets this winter, or indeed at any time during the year. Tell me your thoughts about how realistic it is.
Well, it's one of the things that I really admire him for, and I think I give him full credit for trying to tackle it, because there's no reason why it can't be done. The last Labour government got rough sleeping down to the lowest it can. I mean, you can't eliminate it altogether, but you can get it down to a very low level where it is only the really mentally disturbed people who are determined not to be helped and want to be on the streets that are going to be out there. If we can get back to that, then we will be a civilized country again. And I completely agree with Andy Burnham about that, and I give him full credit for going for it.
I want to be a tiny bit cynical, because it's my job to do so, even though I do wish the government well in this. I worry that a lot of money will be thrown at this. With Christmas as the deadline, lots of people think about homelessness around Christmas and never give it a second thought any other time of the year. And the problem is, as it was the case with everyone in around the pandemic time, that there was a lot of effort to get people off the streets, and then the problems come when it gets to, is there enough social housing? Can we deal with that person's drug problem, their alcohol problem, whatever? Yeah. There is a difference, isn't there? I mean, it's wonderful and brilliant to get people off the streets. The next bit is the tricky bit, and I wonder if you think the government has the fight for that. I'm not dismissing this. I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. I think it's a really good thing if they do it.
Absolutely, but Peter, the point is, this has been done. We have succeeded in effect ending rough sleeping before, and what it takes is persistence and drive from the centre, and to have the Prime Minister himself personally committed to it, I think, is absolutely essential. It's very good news. I hope he is as successful as Tony Blair was, and there's no reason why he shouldn't be. And it doesn't cost a huge amount of money. We're not throwing, you don't have to just throw money at this. It's about persistence and determination.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Number 10 North. Andy Burnham has made Number 10 North responsible for economic growth. He's done an exclusive interview with The Times. He said it's actually a huge transfer of power. It's something the country has never cracked before. I don't want this to sound, a criticism or negative about the Treasury. There's a job to be done around control of public finances. It's the dual job of growth and control of public finances that sometimes clouds the growth mission. Does it matter that the growth will be centred in Manchester? Wouldn't it just be the same if it was in London? And, we spent a huge amount of money doing Treasury North in Darlington as well. Why is it not there?
Yeah, no, I mean, having praised the Prime Minister to the skies, I'm now going to pour a bucket load of scepticism over this one. I mean, to try and repeat what Harold Wilson tried to do in the 1960s, split up the Treasury into a growth ministry and a sort of budget ministry. It ended in disaster, quite rightly, because it's a stupid idea. And for Andy Burnham to try to repeat that idea and say, oh no, it'll work this time, really, is just folly. And I'm afraid it will end in tears, just as Harold Wilson's effort did.
Yes, perhaps a little bit less alcohol in regard to George Brown, though, as well. I do wonder, John, what you think about the kind of sort of Number 10 North more generally, and the Prime Minister wresting this from the Treasury. There are going to be an awful lot of Treasury people who will be around a lot longer than Andy Burnham in government, who will undoubtedly shrug their shoulders or alternatively be very angry about this and perhaps try to be counterproductive.
Well, no, I mean, they will merely point out that you can't defy maths or economic reality just by
moving civil servants.
Moving civil servants around and relabelling departments and saying you want growth. I mean, growth doesn't appear by magic. Growth appears because the country has entrepreneurs who are prepared to take risks, employ people, start new businesses, and you've got to find ways of helping people do that and make it an environment where people feel that they can do that and take risks. And I don't think there are very few people in the Labour government who understand that at all.
Well, thank you for your thoughts on that. I wonder if we could perhaps talk about Andy Burnham's donations. A lot of this was to do, of course, with his run to be Labour leader, but also tickets to Aintree and Glastonbury. There'll be a lot of people not happy about that.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I was very critical of Keir Starmer for accepting donations for suits and glasses, and Taylor Swift at Wembley. But I mean, actually looking into it, I mean, Andy Burnham was speaking at Glastonbury. So I think that was slightly different. I mean, maybe he got extra tickets for his family, but I don't feel really disapproving.
You don't feel there's a suit and glasses style
I don't think so.
here.
No, it doesn't feel like that. But although, I mean, I don't understand anything about horse racing. So the Aintree stuff, I just have no idea what that was about. But there are other things on that list of donations that have been registered, which were mostly to do with promoting Manchester as mayor of Manchester. And I don't really have a problem with any of that.
OK. We've just seen the Telegraph reporting tonight a wake-up call as 1 in 30 white children fails to register for a single qualification at the end of secondary school. The GCSE results are out tomorrow. White children are the most likely ethnicity to enter no GCSE exams for the first time on record. 1 in 30 white pupils who reached year 11 last summer did not register for any GCSEs or equivalent qualifications, according to Department for Education data. It marks the first time since the GCSE grading system changed in 2018-19, when it goes from 1 to 9 rather than ABC, etc., in England anyway, and that the rate of white students skipping their exams higher than any other ethnic group. It's 1 in 51 Asian students, 1 in 42 black students, but white British pupils from working class backgrounds appear to be driving the growing disparity. In particular, white working class boys are most affected, 1 in 10 not entering any exams in the 24-25 academic year.
Yeah, that's a really striking statistic, this. But I mean, it is essentially a problem that we know about, which is white working class boys being the most disadvantaged group, and that's more to do with class than ethnicity. I think it's to do with being working class, and it's a real problem, and people have been aware of it for a long time. I mean, I don't want to harp on about the last Labour government again, but I mean,
you did literally write the book.
The last Labour government did actually have policies that were beginning to deal with this. Academy schools, were designed to improve the life chances of disadvantaged and working class children, and they were beginning to work. They were then diluted by the Tories, and now I'm afraid Lucy Powell sounds as if she's not interested in that kind of thing at all. I mean, Bridget Phillipson was bad enough. We seem to be going from bad to worse.
Just finally, I wonder if I could ask you about this guide from the Home Office. Plenty of people commenting tonight, understanding behaviours and expectations in the UK, a guide for asylum seekers. The fact that the Home Office has to produce this to tell people don't rape women, don't sexually assault people, is of real concern to our audience. I wonder what you make of it, John.
Well, it's of real concern to me. I mean, the fact that there are civil servants, working away, wasting taxpayers' money, writing this kind of bilge. I mean, it defies belief. I mean, are people supposed to read this document and think, oh, well, I won't do that?
I won't be a rapist then.
Because that's not what we're expected to do in this country. I mean, I just think it's so naive. I mean, it's just not how you change behaviours if behaviour is a problem. But I mean, it's not the behaviour that's the problem. It is the influx of uninvited economic migrants, largely, many of them claiming asylum when they get here, and some of them are entitled to it under our rules, which I think.
Well, a quarter of them are liars, because the acceptance rate is about 76%. So a quarter of them are liars, at least.
Well, and some of those 76% shouldn't be accepted in my view anyway, because I think our acceptance rates are too high. But that is the fundamental problem, and until someone gets a grip on the people coming into the country in the first place, this kind of thing is just going to drive people up the wall.
Yeah. John, thank you as always. John Rentoul there, Chief Political Commentator at The Independent. Sarah in Croydon says, John Rentoul saying that Tony Blair succeeded in reducing homelessness. I'm sure that's correct. However, we have since allowed mass migration to this country, which has put a huge strain strain on the housing market, as I believe it was Tony Blair who started this. Thanks, Peter. Gary says, your guest just said that we have ended rough sleeping before. Sorry to be pedantic and point out the bleeding obvious, but if we had ended rough sleeping before, it wouldn't be a problem now, would it? I'm not sure I agree with that, Gary, because people can come off the streets and then go back on them. So it certainly got to a very low level previously, and we need to get back to that level. So I can see the point you're making, Gary, but I don't think you're quite right to be pedantic about your pedantry. Ernie says the government has access to information and statistics that they won't release to us even under the Freedom of Information Act. I'm wondering who and why thought that a pamphlet was needed to tell the illegal boat people. I'm assuming it's only directed at the illegal immigrants that they mustn't rape our women and children. Graham says, regarding the booklet for male migrants landing in our great land, the mindset for these men has already been set. They won't take any notice of it. A leopard won't change its spots. Jason in Whitby says it's all well and good sorting homelessness out, but has he got proper ideas to sort out the crumbling British Empire, or is he clueless? Steve says, regarding the colonialisation chat, I heard and then later saw a clip from Politics Live, I think, where the same wording was used, but this time I think it was a Green Party member. I'm unfamiliar with that, but I'll take what Steve says as read. They included that they all speak English phrase. It looks like the newest phrases the left want to use. I add that I should be a Labour voter all my life, as I agree with certain things being state-run. They did pull in all the morons who cannot do it. Alex says, you could mention the good work of the St Giles Trust, my last employer before I got ill. They do good work countrywide, but they're a good organisation who can help with homelessness and support. It's a good charity to donate to. That's the St Giles Trust. Alex, very happy to mention them. Couple more before the break. Dave says, Peter, I was entering my local Burger King and there was a homeless person sitting at the entrance. Once I'd eaten my meal, I asked a staff member if the homeless person could come in and dine if I purchased his food. Yes, of course. So I went up to him and asked if he would like to eat inside, to which he said, yes, please. I ordered what he wanted on the app. A staff member said, you've ordered more for him than you had, to which I said, I know, I can eat any time. I sat with a homeless person and talked to him and asked what he would wish for, and he said, a sleeping bag, not somewhere to live. If the shops were open, I would have taken him to the store so he could choose his own sleeping bag. Unfortunately, I've not seen him since, says Dave, clearly a very compassionate person. Polly in Lancashire says, good evening, Peter. The government producing this leaflet is an admission that they are fully aware that the people breaking into our country are not compatible with our culture. I think all the families of every victim should get together, crowdfund, hire the best legal team and sue the government for enabling these heinous crimes and not protecting its citizens. I also believe there is a subsection of our society who don't believe the law applies to them and who do not responsibly parent their children. I believe there should be greater repercussions against these lowlives. Great show. Thank you, says Polly in Lancashire. Lots more to discuss. Jane and Steve are standing by. We'll take some more calls, of course, between now and 10. If you want to get your voice on the air, please do give me a ring. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us here on Talk.
We have to stand up to the French. We have to be much tougher. We have to stop. I mean, it is the pull factor is huge, but even without the pull factor, there are going to be people who, want to come across that bit of ocean and come to us. And I just think, once again, we do a lot of talking about it, and Andy Burnham, every time he's interviewed, says, oh yes, but there's fewer boats coming. There may be fewer boats coming, but they're actually bigger boats and they're holding just as many people. I think the money we're giving to France is unbelievably big for what they're doing for us.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thanks to the texter who says, I'm sure the residents of Piddington, population 350, will be greatly comforted to know that the 1,250 young men who are about to be settled in their village will have been issued with this Home Office guidance. Very good point. Keith says the assertion that migrants come here because of the English language is load of old nonsense. I can't think of anything more appropriate to use. The word he has used is not nonsense. I think we all know that. It's more they come here to be among people who speak their own language, so it goes on. If necessary, a translator will be provided. Why bother with English? David in Worcestershire says, we have a debt crisis, migrant crisis, rape can crisis, welfare crisis, and Andy wants to talk about buses. It's insane where we are as a country, says David in Worcestershire. And Steve says, how many white working class boys are being ignored because teachers are spending valuable time concentrating on poor English-speaking students? I would like a teacher to inform us if this is a problem. If you're a teacher and you're listening, you want to tell me what the issue is, what's going on, by all means, give me a shout, 0344 499 1000. This is after the story reported in the Telegraph that 1 in 30 white pupils who reached year 11 last summer did not register for any GCSEs or equivalent qualifications. White British pupils from working class backgrounds appear to be driving this disparity between them and other ethnic groups. Sir Hamid Patel, who's the co-chairman of an inquiry about this, said these figures should be a wake-up call that reflect many of the concerns highlighted by the inquiry. If you are getting your GCSE results tomorrow, I wish you well with them. And Becca's been in touch and says, can you give a shout out to my daughter Jessica? A good luck message for the GCSE results tomorrow. She had motor and speech dyspraxia and has worked so hard. I let her to stay up to watch you. It will make her night. Jessica, I wish you very well. I hope that you have had a lovely summer, and I hope you haven't been worrying about your results. I hope you've just been enjoying your summer and enjoying the sunshine. I know you've worked really hard because your mum sends in messages every now and again, and she's someone who always tells the truth. And if she says you've been working hard, you've been working hard. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever numbers, I think it's numbers rather than letters if you're in England anyway, come out of that envelope tomorrow. I just want you to remember that whatever you do in future is not defined by them. I hope they go really, really well. I hope you get the results you want. I hope that whatever happens next for you is a really good thing. That means you can have a good life and that you can use all that determination that you have put into those GCSEs to everything else in life as well. So I wish you really well. I wish you all the best. And maybe, Becca, you could let us know how Jessica got on, and I'll ask the top team behind the glass just to keep an eye out for that tomorrow night. And do celebrate and have a nice time as well. Maybe see your friends, or be sure to do something fun tomorrow, whatever the case is. And don't worry tonight either. Just have a good night's sleep. Que sera, sera, whatever it will be, will be. So, Jessica, I wish you all the very best. Greg in Lincoln says, I know you're a Christmas absolutist. Have you seen your caption, off the streets by the holidays? Ooh, says Greg in Lincoln. Yes, can we deal with that, please? It has been dealt with, I am told, by our producer is raging, but yes, not the holidays. They're not the holidays, they're Christmas. Greg, thank you for that. I don't make every single decision about every single thing that's on the screen. Of course, there's a whole team behind the glass that deals with all of that who clearly haven't been doing the job. Anyway, no, I'm joking. They've all been doing a marvellous job, and they're fixing the issue there. How many white working class boys are being ignored, says Steve. Sorry, I've read that out. Let's go to William, who is in London, about rough sleeping. William, you're very welcome to the programme. Thanks for your call. What would you like to say?
Thank you for taking my call again, Peter.
Sure, good to chat to you again, William.
This rough sleeping again from Burnham. They're going to get free buses, then get a Christmas holiday. But anyway, Peter, 50% of rough sleepers in London are foreign-born nationals.
It's something like that, certainly. There's an awful lot of them. There's an awful lot of them, yeah.
So, Peter, if it's asylum seekers and if people coming over here as refugees or migration, illegals, it's never going to end. It's just carrying on and on and on. And this Burnham's saying so many things that people just don't want to hear. The free buses, Peter. Your council tax will rise.
Yeah.
With this, we're going to get rid of all the homeless. Your other taxes are going to rise. When is he going to start saying about illegal and legal migration, Peter? That everyone and the cost of living, bills are going up again. Inflation's just going up. He's not he's not presented anything about this sort of thing, has he, Peter?
Well, there's so many things I want to hear. I want to hear so much more from him about all those things you mentioned, William. I want to hear more from him about immigration. I want to hear a lot more about the cost of living. And yeah, a load of people do take buses. And if you are taking if you're on public transport, you're far more likely to be in a bus than a train. So it will help some people. But we've heard a heck of a lot about buses and not very much about immigration. We've heard it's going to be relentless about immigration. How? What's he going to do? What should he do, William, do you think?
Peter, he's just another part. They've put him in this position, Peter, just to, I don't really know. I think he's absolutely useless, Peter.
Okay.
I know Keir Starmer was useless, but Peter, we're all going to be paying for this.
Yeah.
It's nothing. He keeps saying, I'm going to do this. Peter, you do know before the Maberfield election, he got a donation of £345,000.
We've talked about that this evening, William. Certainly, we're not ignoring that at all. Thanks for your call. Steve is in Melton Mowbray. Steve, I don't think we've spoken before. You're very welcome to the programme. I know you want to talk about the migrant guidance. What would you like to say?
Hi, Peter. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, I'm delighted you picked up the phone, Steve.
Oh, no problem. I think this government pamphlet's sort of the straw that broke this camel's back.
Okay.
I had a couple of sort of points that came to mind, and then one point I'm not sure anybody else has made, but a couple of comments. I think public security should start at a border, not in a classroom.
Very good
You
point.
don't secure a house by handling the burglar as a welcome pack.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if anybody's made this other point, but are we not creating a double standard and a legal loophole here? Us as British citizens aren't given state pamphlets telling us not to commit sexual violence.
Or any other crime.
Indeed. We know right from wrong. Giving these guides out, are they potentially handing left-wing judges an excuse to let off poor disadvantaged asylum seekers by claiming cultural misunderstanding?
I didn't get the leaflet. I didn't understand the leaflet. It wasn't explained to me. Nobody told me. That kind of stuff, I mean, any first-year law student will tell you that ignorance is no defence when it comes to the law, but I am worried. That's a really, really good point, Steve. Really good point.
I just think there's human rights lawyers popping champagne around the country at the moment, devouring this. I'm just surprised you didn't release it on TikTok.
Steve, I think for the first call you've ever made into this station, that is an absolutely superb call. In about 1.5 minutes there, not even that, you've made brilliant points, and I thank every single caller to this programme this evening, but I think you are the best. I want you to ring me anytime, Steve, okay?
I shall do.
Whatever's on the tip of your tongue, you give me a ring, all right?
No problem.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Steve. Much appreciated. Let's play a couple of voice notes. Sarah has been in touch about the leaflet.
Good evening, Peter. It's Sarah from Croydon. If the government feel it necessary to give out this list of instructions about how we live our lives and our values here and how women should be treated, for example, then why on earth are these people being let out on our streets to do what they want unsupervised? It just beggars belief. It really does. Detain them, deport them. I don't understand what the problem is. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Sarah. Let's hear from Mike.
Hi, Peter. It's Mike in Whitney here. Was it Aristotle who said, "Give me the child until he is 7, and I will show you the man"? So these illegal immigrants coming over here being given some manual of how to treat people when they're teenagers or over 20, whatever. It's too late, isn't it? And Aristotle, I think he's proven that.
Very good point.
Very famous saying. So it's just an absolute disgrace that we have to accept these people into our country and then give them a manual on how to behave. It's ridiculous. You can't change people like that.
Thank you. Really good points there. Peter has been in touch on homeless Brits and what the Labour MP Sam Rushwood said earlier on Jeremy's programme. Let's hear from Peter.
Good evening, Peter. This Andy Vermin saying about there shouldn't be anybody homeless. Is he actually talking about people sleeping rough on the streets, the ones that live up by Marble Arch, all the illegal immigrants? Because I think he probably means them more than he means British people. Because up to now, none of the Labour government and even the Tories have given a damn about British people having to live in doorways. And as for this Sam fella that was on this morning, well, I've never heard such ridiculous, out-of-date tripe in my whole life. It just shows, right, that all the time Labour are trying to dismantle this country, dismantle the British way of life and British culture and give it away to foreigners. They're hell-bent on this thing about that we owe all these people. We don't owe these people anything. The amount of money they've had back in legal aid over the decades, right, far outweighs it. And let's face it, they've all gained from the knowledge and the technology this country gave. This needs to stop. Labour need to go.
Peter, thank you for your thoughts. Gary says a lot of the people who are sleeping rough, particularly those who are living in the tented villages that are springing up in the centre of our cities, are migrants, both legal and illegal, who choose to live that way for two reasons. First, they're here to earn money to send home to their families, and paying for accommodation is an unnecessary expense. And secondly, if you are of no fixed abode, you can stay one step ahead of the authorities, not just immigration officers, but HMRC too. Good luck to Andy Burnham in persuading that lot off the streets. Trevor says, I'm sure that most rough sleepers would prefer military quality winter sleeping bags and soup kitchens at Christmas. I say with talking to many in Manchester. That's Trev in Middleton there. Steve says, how many white working class boys are being ignored because teachers are spending valuable time concentrating on poor English speaking students? Melanie says, great show as always. My daughter is a teacher and exasperated with the woke ideology. She is head of curriculum and has had to add democracy lessons to the timetable in which students will be taught about disinformation and misinformation. And she says it's heavily biased towards the left. She wants to change her career desperately now, says Melanie. Melanie, I'm really sorry to hear that. And the irony is that your daughter is needed more than ever in the education system because she's sensible, like you, Melanie, and has common sense and won't be taken in by the woke ideology. But I totally understand her position. I'm not condemning her in any way. I'm simply saying that people who have that common sense are much lacking in so many of our professions. And if she's being driven out of teaching, well, that is a very sad thing. Alex has sent a lovely message about Jessica, my message to her. Thank you, Alex. And Becca has been back in touch as well and says Jessica is over the moon. I'll let you know tomorrow about her results, says Becca. Well, that's something to look forward to, certainly. And I hope Jessica gets the results that she wants, really good results. And a bit of advice for you, Jessica, just before we go to the break. This is probably the best bit of advice that was ever given to me, and it was from a woman who worked at the BBC at Newsnight with me many, many years ago, and I was worried about something. I think I was going for a job interview, actually, for a permanent job or a longer contract or whatever it was, and I said, what advice would you give me? And she said, Peter, to which I say, Jessica, go forth and kick ass. Stay with us here on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, thank you so much to everybody who's been in touch. We'll get back to your calls, texts, tweets and voice notes in just a minute or two. But I want to speak to the former Deputy Leader of the Green Party now, Shara Ali. You're very welcome in the studio. How are you doing, Shara?
Pleasure to be here, thank you.
Great to see you. This is because of the witterings of someone calling himself Eleonora Sophie Folan, a female representative in the Green Party's governing council, except obviously not a female, a male, biologically, a man. Let's just hear what Eleonora has been telling his supporters.
Hello! Hello! Can everybody hear me all right? Wonderful. I think we need to get some energy going first. So I say trans, you say rights, yeah? Trans! Rights! Trans! Rights! Trans! Rights! My name is Eleonora. I am a trans woman, and I am a woman no matter what any other people might think or say, because the Supreme Court does not determine reality. It does not snap its fingers and change everything at once. I hate long plodding speeches, so I just had a few things that I think were important to say. The first is that framing it as us versus the Girl Guides, as an organisation, or the WI, is exactly what TERFs want. It is precisely what they are trying to achieve, to pit all of us as enemies of little girls, as enemies of lovely old women. And I think the most important thing to do is to recognise that these organisations are not our enemies. They are not our opponents. They are people, cowardly people, soft people, yes, who have capitulated to legal threats, to threats of bankruptcy. But they are not the cause of our problems.
Sadly, what you didn't get from that clip, you certainly got lots of Eleonora's views on the trans issue. What we sadly didn't get was her views on Israel. He said, the anti-Semitism crisis, in inverted commas, is an entirely constructed moral panic invented by the Zionist lobby and their servile allies in Downing Street and the rabid dogs of the press. Its sole objective is to crush any materially significant movement that challenges Israel, in inverted commas. It's a scam, Israel not being given as a proper noun there, simply as something which actually, in Eleonora's view, doesn't even exist. Anyway, victory to the Iranian nation, free Palestine from imperial colonisers, and abolish Israel. Our party has changed, and my election as a proud anti-Zionist trans woman symbolises that change. Lots of different statements from Folan as well. When polls started to show the Greens were set to gain 1,000 seats from Labour in the local elections, he wrote, "The media immediately roared into action and invented a fake scandal to try to destroy the only viable left-wing party in England." Now then, thank you from Eleonora as well, talking about Greens from Palestine supporting him, talking about East Anglia. "I intend to stand by my manifesto defending freedom of speech regarding Israel, support members when they're attacked and smeared by the feral Zionist press," that's me, "and ensure all our members follow the same rules. In short, free speech, solidarity, equality. Inshallah, we will prevail," says Eleonora Sophie Folan, GPC rep for the East of England's brackets female place. Shara, where do you even start with this nonsense?
Firstly, I should say I'm probably going to get into trouble with the Green Party for not correcting your misgendering of Folan. But I should say that you should be entitled to use male pronouns under the Equality Act, which was clarified.
And, you know, facts and reality.
Man is biological male. That said, I do think that people should be entitled to self-identify and request, but they shouldn't be able to insist on pain of disciplinary action on their using their pronouns.
Yeah, Eleanor can insist as much as he wants. He's a he. Yeah.
There are several problems with the election of Folan. Firstly, he or she has occupied a place reserved for a female, or in the language of the Green Party, female or non-binary, and one place is reserved for a male. And it's actually quite bizarre, actually, that if you're on the male side of the election, you don't have to compete with non-binary folk as well. So, but if you're a female, or if you are a biological woman, you have to compete against more people, including males who identify as female. So that's what's happened here. I would suggest that a stroke is contrary to the Equality Act and lays open the Green Party again to unlawful discrimination. Because what they've done is exactly what the Supreme Court said cannot be done, which is to open up places which are reserved for women to biological males. So they've got a problem there. The Green Party's got a problem. Folan isn't necessarily at fault for having exploited that opportunity. The second problem here is the statement, some of which you have drawn attention to. And the organisation calling itself Nasher Jew has done an extensive analysis of posts on X by Folan, many of which are as recent as this year. And what he does say, and this is a problem for the Green Party, for somebody who is now in an internally elected office in the most important governing body.
Can I just stop you very briefly there? Because last night we were talking about dreadful anti-Semitism in a WhatsApp group, and the Green Party said, well, it's a WhatsApp group, these people aren't elected people, we're not responsible for what they say and do, basically no comment. This is someone who is elected to on the governing council of the Green Party. It is perfectly legitimate to examine his views here.
Certainly, and he or she is, let's just say, Folan is parading their views very publicly, and these views are not only, I would say, rabidly anti-Semitic,
agreed,
but they are contrary to published Green Party policy on Israel, which is a two-state solution.
Mm-hmm.
So, just to quote Folan, Israel should be dissolved entirely. The animal state of Israel should be totally dissolved. It has no right to exist. That's contrary to Green Party policy, which is pre-1967 borders, two-state solution. So we haven't even passed the motion yet, which is probably going to be heard in October in Brighton conference, that Zionism is racism. The implication being, the standard implication drawn from that is that Israel, again, does not have a right to exist because Israel, whatever your definition of Zionism, the state of Israel is a form of it. And the idea that there is no formulation of Zionism, i.e. no formulation of Israel, which is legitimate, is the problem. So what Folan has done is he's directly contradicted something which I used to have a problem with the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, and now I see it as a wholly valid formulation of anti-Semitism because sadly, and even I didn't see this coming, the extent and degree of anti-Jewish hatred on our streets and murder in the United Kingdom and obsessive attention to Israel above any other state which has committed atrocities has become de facto anti-Semitic. And so that's why we see, whether you want to call it a conflation, this is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It is no longer just a conflation between speaking up against the warring tactics of Israel and Judaism. It is the same, because it's being used as a proxy for anti-Jewish hatred.
Eleonora has a picture on his thank you wearing earphones, blue hair, keffiyeh, the scarf that many people wear in support of the Palestinian cause, a watermelon symbol around his neck, which is often seen as support for Hamas. I expect Eleonora would argue that that's actually just as support for the Palestinian people more generally. If Eleonora were to, nip to Ramallah on his holidays, how far do you think Eleonora would get?
Well, this is another paradox which people have commented on throughout the day around the idea that you can square the circle of transgender liberation, if you like. They are not and never have been the most persecuted minority in the United Kingdom, and they do have rights, as we know. But you cannot square that circle with the Islamist adjacent agenda which the Green Party has been following, because many Muslims and conservative Muslims who have joined the Green Party, who have demonstrated their allegiance to Palestine at all costs, chanting from the river to the sea in the same way that Folan has, and making it very clear what they mean by that, i.e. the abolition of Israel, and Folan has made that extremely explicit. That is inconsistent with the Green Party's brand of LGBTQ plus rights. So he would not be able to live freely in that country, no question, nor would he have been able to live freely, or even now, in Iran.
Eleonora Sophie Folan has written, "Our party has changed, and my election as a proud anti-Zionist trans woman symbolises that change. I look forward to working with the comrades on the GPC," this is the governing council of the Green Party, "to build a radical anti-imperialist Green Party, one that always stands shoulder to shoulder with queers, Palestinians, disabled people, migrants, refugees and activists enduring state repression. Inshallah, we will prevail." Shara, thank you for your analysis of all of that. The Shara Ali there, former deputy leader of the Green Party. Lots to discuss on all of this, and we'll take some more calls and have a quick chat with Petri Hoskin before 10 o'clock. Keep your messages and calls coming in, 0344 499 1000.
we have to stand up to the French. We have to be much tougher. We have to stop. I mean, it is the pull factor is huge, but even without the pull factor, there are going to be people who, you know, want to come across that bit of ocean and come to us. And I just think, once again, you know, we do a lot of talking about it, and Andy Burnham, every time he's interviewed, says, oh yes, but there's fewer boats coming. There may be fewer boats coming, but they're actually bigger boats and they're holding just as many people. I think the money we're giving to France is unbelievably big for what they're doing for us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Tommy has messaged me. He called in earlier, a very, very good call, and has said some really lovely things, but has said maybe I could give him a bit more time. The next time, Tommy, I will try to remember to do that. Certainly, your call very, very valued. The problem is sometimes, you know, some people think I jump in or, you know, hurry people up and things like that. I get that, but we just have so much to get through in 3 hours. It sounds like a long show, 3 hours, but it really isn't. So it's really good when people ring up and make points, but sometimes I just have to say, you know, we're just running out of time, or I'm being shouted at to go to a break or something like that. But Tommy, I really appreciate your very, very nice message, and I look forward to you ringing in again whenever you like, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more time the next time. David says, wasn't the Equalities Act meant to give rights for trans women so they could be trans women and not women? Why does Eleanor want to be a woman? He needs to have a think about what rights he wants, says David. Rafaela in Enfield says, it beggars belief that our government cannot enter into a short-term agreement at whatever cost whereby the French take back boat people. The problem would stop overnight. Ashton says, I'm deeply concerned by the person elected as the women's representative in the Green Party Policy Board. His repeated use of inverted commas around Israel and comments about British Jews are overtly racist, in Ashton's opinion. How do they think Hamas would treat them as a trans person? Mark says, regarding these leaflets being handed out to incoming migrants, how many languages are they printed in? If it's English, I doubt many would understand them. If they're in certain other languages, would not be a big indicator of where they're actually coming from. Also, I can't imagine these are being handed out to women, so isn't this an admission that there are mainly men coming into this country? Joanna says, the village of Piddington, how safe do they feel? Well, actually, I spoke to the parish council leader actually earlier on. I think it was on Sunday I spoke to him. He was absolutely brilliant. I think we clipped it up, so if you go on my Twitter at Peter Cardwell, you see a clip from that. The village of Piddington, how safe do they feel? The Home Office's Guide to UK Culture is admitting what we already know, says Joanna. Since Lamy refused to release figures of crimes and ethnicity, we have been looking at girls and women, but boys are used as T-boys. Then a pensioner got raped, a man. These migrants already know what is wrong. They hide their crimes and video them to show their mates and boast about them. Gary says, I've had an idea. Burnham loves buses, so if he starts running 24-hour bus service so the homeless can sleep in them, problem solved. In all seriousness, someone senior in the Labour Party needs to take this bloke to one side and remind him he is no longer mayor of a comparatively small city. He is Prime Minister of a nuclear power and the country with the 5th biggest economy in the world. Worrying about bus fares and the homeless, however noble, will find him fiddling while Rome burns. Quite a number of tweets as well. Let me just read a couple of these. Leah says a secondary pamphlet in multiple languages should be published by the Home Office for illegal migrants. It will advise in the procedure to return to the land of their birth, i.e. a one-way ticket. How simple is that? Stone Me says, here's a great idea. How about Burnham and his ministers doing a press conference every evening, the same as the COVID lockdowns, but rather than announcing how many COVID cases there are, they could tell us how many illegals had broken into the country the previous day. Amy says, I thought the Greens were all about the environment, but the post that Eleanor has put out about the results of the election to the governing body don't mention the environment once. Does he not care about that anymore? Andy says the fact that we have British-born abusers and criminals is all the more reason not to import any more. Very good point there. Richard says you cannot end rough sleeping when many want to be on the street because they cannot handle life in what they see as a box. A home isn't for everyone. Another person says Tony Blair's homeless initiative worked. Street sleepers were reduced significantly. And a very good one from Andy says Ralph McTell's 1969 hit song The Streets of London reminds us that rough sleeping has gone on forever. It's a very good point, Andy. It's also a very good song. I want to speak to Jane in Glasgow, who's given me a ring on 034449911000. I think another new caller. Jane, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hi, good evening, Peter.
Good evening, Jane.
Followed you
Jane,
for a
let me,
long time.
sorry to stop you there. Could you do me a favour and just switch off the telly or the radio behind you? Just take a wee minute to do that. Don't apologise. Everybody does it.
Sorry, apologies.
No worries at all. Are they off?
Is that better?
Marvellous, marvellous. Well, this is great to talk to you. You're saying you've listened for a while.
Yeah, I love your programmes. I actually follow you. I think you're one of the best presenters on TV.
Oh, you.
Anyway,
Thank you very much, Jane. That's very kind. That's very kind.
I'm not trying to flatter you.
Well, you're succeeding.
You keep it real.
Very kind. What point would you like to make, Jane?
Comment would be with this regarding this information or directive that's come out from the Home Office about rape guidance.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say, I am now a recently retired midwife.
Okay.
I have worked in 4 different countries.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I lived in Hungary. My husband, who was an economist, worked for a Scandinavian company.
Mm-hmm.
I donated my time to the International Red Cross because I'm a registered nurse, registered midwife, with a neonatal diploma that's
Yes.
international. Cut a long story short, that was during the Bosnian War.
Uh-huh.
And we took women from Bosnia, and you cannot believe what had been done to them. They had been raped in ways I had never. I just couldn't imagine it. Okay, I might have had a rather sheltered life, growing up in a nice suburb in Scotland, but that shook me to my core.
Yeah.
What could be done to women? The other thing is, you have to understand that isn't just something that happens on a Saturday night,
Mm-hmm.
or the violence used by men to do these things. And for me, it's an absolute insult to the number of years I have spent trying to protect women, look after them, care for them. It's just horrendous that now the government appears to accept that might happen. It's shameful, absolutely shameful. And I am so ashamed that the British government, and by the way, the Scottish pretended Parliament place are not much better.
What do you think it says, Jane, to someone like you who's volunteered your time with people who have gone through horrendous violence, that is coming to our shores to the extent that we need to deal with it by putting out this leaflet, in your view?
In my view, this is not about me any way, shape or form. It's about the women.
Yes.
And not only women, I might add. Young men, young boys, young girls. It's not about me.
On that elderly
I'm
gentleman,
one
on
boy.
that elderly gentleman who was raped by
don't even mention
men as
that.
well. Horrendous. Jane, I've got to go because Petri Hoskins here and we were ending the show, but I really appreciate your call. Very powerful call. And I want you to give me a ring anytime with whatever's on your mind. Okay, Jane? Is that all right?
Lovely. Thank you so kindly.
Well,
for
you've spoken brilliantly for that, and really, I'm really quite moved by that. And Jane, clearly someone who has volunteered a lot of time and seen some horrific things, including in Bosnia, as she was mentioning, her work for the International Red Cross. And it's very appropriate, actually, that Petri is with us next, because she was a war reporter there during what happened in Sarajevo. We were just hearing from Jane there. I don't know how much of that you heard, but an incredible call and real worry about what's coming next for this country as well with this.
Yeah, I mean, in Bosnia,
problems.
I was threatened directly by one of the senior commanders there with being sent to one of the rape camps, just for being there, and it was on an industrial scale. These rape camps for soldiers. It was absolutely horrific.
Awful. What's coming up in your programme?
Coming up in my programme, actually, it's kind of on a similar line, I guess. But I've got the former Vice President of Afghanistan joining me at 10 o'clock, because it's 5 years since the Taliban took over. So I want to look at the way women are treated now in Afghanistan and the state of the country since it was abandoned by the West to the Taliban. And we're very lucky to have the former Vice President of that country joining us at 10 o'clock.
That'll be a really interesting interview.
Really interesting. John Boothman is joining me to talk about Number 10 North, because he's in Scotland, so he knows about a devolved...
he knows about the North.
He knows about the North, but he knows about devolvement.
Yes.
And I thought that would be quite interesting to see that, because we're being told that Number 10 North is not going to cost us a penny. It's